You guys are too sweet, man, and you especially are you a girl version of Blunt Man and Chronic? This is not the first time I've ever wanted to fuck myself, I'll tell you that much. Every saga has a middle age, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what happens when Jay and Silent Bob get old. I'm Kevin Smith.
Jason Mewes.
We are in Toronto, Ontario, in the great white true north of Canada. Give it up.
Whoa.
And we are capping off Friday night here at Fan Expo Canada. Have you all had a good time so far? Excellent. Sorry, the mic went.
It's you this time, good.
Give me yours, because you don't talk. I just got back from another con. Last night I was in Orlando for Celebration 6, the big Star Wars convention.
Wow.
It was sweet. Yeah, it was kind of cool, but it's so fucking strange to go, to get on a plane and leave that behind and come to another gathering of fucking geeks. It's kind of awesome. I was like, wow, amongst my people, no matter where I go, whether here I'm in Florida or up in Toronto. So thanks for all coming out, man. This is kind of cool being at Fan Expo Canada. I'm sure you guys know this is part of your Canadian heritage. Having a huge Comic-Con right here in town is a big deal because Toronto was the original model for Metropolis. Joe Shuster, one of the co-creators of Superman, was Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Was from here, right here in Toronto, and has said, many times while he was doing interviews back in the day, that he had based he had based Metropolis on the skyline of Toronto. And the first publication of Superman, the newspaper he worked for wasn't the Daily Planet, it was actually the Daily Star, because young Joe Shuster had been a newspaper boy for the Toronto Daily Star. So one of the comics' biggest icons has a huge Canadian heritage to him. Everything about the character emanates right here from Canada. Oddly enough, character is nothing but red, white, and fucking blue.
Red, white, never blue!
You would think there should be some form of maybe a patch of some sort that just it indicates Canadian born or something like that. But there's no mention. Even if you go to the Wikipedia page and if you just Google something like Metropolis, Toronto, when you get to the Wikipedia page for Metropolis, Metropolis is based on many cities, including, and they list a bunch of cities, and Toronto's just one of them. But really, this was the origin city, man, because the guy who first drew a Superman story, the co-creator of Superman, was the skyline of Metropolis is Toronto. So it's part of your Canadian heritage. That's a really cool fucking thing.
I like it. See, it seems like the S could have been in a maple leaf maybe or something, right?
Or at least include a maple leaf on the S. When you go to a McDonald's up here, everything is the same except for the little maple leaf that they hide somewhere on the M, just to let you know you're in fucking Canada now. This Big Mac's gonna be a Big Mac, eh? But yeah, it'd be nice if they gave some indication, but they don't, man. They don't get it. Canada doesn't get a credit for a lot of shit. Do you know the phone was born here?
Wait, the phone?
Telephone.
No.
Yeah. Where did you think the phone was born?
America! Fuck yeah! No.
That's how we're raised down there. We're raised to believe that every invention came from America, man. Even if you sit there and talk to Americans about I love hockey, the great Canadian game of hockey, it's not Canadian, an American invented it. And you're like, do you have proof? And they're like, no, but it's too cool. Basketball, also invented up here.
Basketball too?
Yeah. And do you see how sweet they are about it? Not yeah, you pricks, and you stole it. That was actually what the War of 1812 was about. They're give us back basketball. Things just got sexy, man.
Yeah.
I like it. This is awesome. We could get shot in a room this dark.
Now I could jerk you off and no one will tell. Only the water you'll see.
That would happen whether the lights were on or off, my friend.
See, this is I see now. Superman fucking hanging out and shit, coming out of a telephone booth, fucking drinking some Tim Hortons with a maple leaf, right? Fucking
I think you lost half the audience with telephone booth. They're like, what's that? Is that, oh, the mic stand? Oh, okay, yeah, totally. Can we lose this? Was I lost behind the mic stand?
Yeah.
I feel positively slim. It's like a fucking hippo behind a pencil. Okay, man, we're here in Toronto at Fan Expo Canada. As said, Toronto, one of my, and I don't say this, some people I'm sure go to cities and be like, you're one of my favorite fucking cities. I am well documented on the record. Go to Google, Kevin Smith, Canada, Toronto, and you'll see me sucking Toronto's dick left and right. In fact, this evening, it was a tough decision before coming out. Do I wear my specialty-made Maple Leaf jersey? I have a classic Toronto Maple Leaf jersey, says Horton across the back. Or do I debut the jersey that I made for Muse? We now have our very own jersey. As you can see, I generally wear the same fucking colors all the time. I'm no longer an identity. I'm just, there's that fat guy in those colors. And so what I've done is like an action figure, man. Like I basically just change out my nameplate right here, the crest in the middle, so sometimes this Modco, when I'm doing spoilers, it says spoilers. When I do Babylon, there's one for that. And this is the first time I wore one for this show. It says, just simply says, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. But that's where I am with my smoking. I need to wear a shirt to remind me what show I'm on, because periodically I'll be in the middle of a story and I'll be like, what the fuck am I talking about? And then I look down, I'm like, oh, Jason Mewes. Anyway. But I love this city, one of my favorite places in the world, because it houses a place, and I don't want to lean too much on. I smoke weed. It's well documented, but I'll say it one more time. I love weed. I wasn't looking for that. It's just essential for the story. One of my favorite places in the world, you know, in the world, since we are at Fan Expo Canada, we can use a comic book reference, a Ra's al Ghul, if you will, Ra's al Ghul, depending on who you ask. All in the comics always had to go to Lazarus Pit, dumped into it, boom, he's renewed. He's hundreds of years old in the comics. They don't really touch on that so much in the movie series. My Lazarus Pit, the place that I like to go to, you know, there's a few places in the world, but one of them, the key one, where
Pussy.
Pussy, of course, is the ultimate Lazarus Pit. It's what I call my wife's pussy, as a matter of fact. Because I call my...
I'm younger.
You eat pussy and fucking a dick.
I don't think you've ever fucking fucked my wife, because if I came at her with, I'm young, she'd be like, you're divorced. Yes, that is a Lazarus Pit, but also right here, they got the Hockey Hall of Fame, one of my favorite places in the world. Now, some people will be like, fuck hockey, this is a comic book show. And believe me, we'll talk plenty about comics and whatnot, but if you've never been, even if you're not a fan of hockey, go to the Hockey Hall of Fame and go, you know, it's a museum, so you don't have to give money. They suggest a donation, but you could be that prick that's just like, no, I'm good, and walk in. But on your way out, trust me, you will be reaching for your wallet and you will be weeping and handing them fucking money. Every time I go on the way out, I give them like $10,000. I'm like, that's the best emotional experience I've had in years. What I love to do, one of my favorite things in this lifetime to do, and I don't get to do it a lot, and that's probably why I still enjoy it and why it's so precious in my mind, because I haven't got to do it too many times, and I can only do it here. I like to get really baked and walk around the Hockey Hall of Fame and cry my eyes out. Because every fucking story that you encounter is more heartbreaking than less. Some are full of hope and stuff, some are heartbreaking. The one that always breaks me up whenever I walk through is the story of bashing Bill Barilko. If you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan from going way back in the day, Bill Barilko was a player, played 4 years, played with the Maple Leafs. He won 4 Stanley Cups. The last one being in 1951, in which he scored the winning goal that won the Stanley Cup. Now, if you like playing hockey, and you ever dream about playing hockey professionally, the ultimate dream, as you fall asleep at night, that last thing you think about as you pass out is, I'd love to win the Stanley Cup. As you get older, your dream progresses to, I want to be the winning goal that wins the Stanley Cup, you know, because I'll get so much pussy then. He was that guy. I don't know if he was like all about pussy, he must have been, but he was that guy who was like, he got to score the winning goal. 1951, they win the Stanley Cup and shit. He goes on a fishing trip with a friend of his in a plane, and they go up north or whatever to go fishing. and the plane is never heard from again, just disappears. And this is at a time before they have GPS. This is at a time before they even have proper toilet paper. So 1951 was savage up here. So they lost the plane. They couldn't find it. It was like Amelia Earhart, man, like this. So we'll move your mic away. They couldn't find evidence of it anywhere. It was kind of lost. They didn't know what happened to Bill. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, they won the Stanley Cup in 1951. They wouldn't win it again for 11 years. The next time they won it was in 1962, the very same year that they finally found the body of Bill Barilko.
It's my 50 mission cap.
Isn't that fucked up? Like, doesn't that? I sit there and I read that story and I'm just like, that's so beautiful and sad and weird and spooky and, you know, oh, it's a house of horrors. You walk around that Hall of Fame, man. It's all about kids who love playing hockey so much and eventually they can't do it anymore, and some of them fucking die. Tim Horton, man. Tim Horton played for Toronto. He was playing for Buffalo when one night he was driving home from a game, boom, puts his car into a cement embankment, fucking dies. Meanwhile, you think of Tim Horton, you think of coffee and donuts and shit.
Is that the same guy, the same dude? Was it? Like,
no, dude, the one who invented the donuts, he was Tim Horton the astronaut. Yes, dude, it was the same dude. It was the same dude.
they named it after him afterwards because...
No, it was his business. He was something of an entrepreneur because when you were playing hockey professionally back in the day, you didn't have like lucrative contracts and stuff. So during the off season, when he wasn't playing games, he would literally go like work in the mines for the same guy that owned the team and stuff. But then he was like, maybe I'll try businesses of my own, tried a car dealership, tried a few things. And then he got onto this donut thing, Tim Hortons donuts and coffee and stuff. And so he and another guy built the business together, and then he died, and the other guy bought Tim Horton's wife out of it for like $1 million, and it grew to become the Tim Hortons, you know. So it is named after him, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say like he was driving and shit, and then he started getting tired, and he's like, I need coffee in a bit. There goes the names for coffee and bagels. I mean,
I don't remember that story in the Hockey Hall of Fame, I'll be honest with you. It's, what the fuck, dude?
I'm not making fun. It's sad. It's sad. I'm just saying. I thought it was gonna be because the plane too. How was it 11 years? Was some dude just like in the mountains, fucking? He's like, I'm gonna climb to that peak, and all of a sudden he gets up there and he goes to grab it, and all of a sudden he's like holding on to some dude's hand, and he's like, no. Like, how did they find him?
How did fucking the death of Bill Barilko become Raiders of the Lost Ark?
That's it. I was bringing some adventure.
Yeah. You're like, it wasn't adventurous enough. The spooky factor, the fact that he died lost in the wilderness. I had to bring a bullwhip into it.
Did they really just found him in the forest somewhere? It's like some...
Well, I mean, when they found their bones and stuff, they found the wreckage of the plane, but it took...
And then there he
11
was.
years later, some guy was flying over. He's like, I think I found the wreckage of a plane. It turned out to be the body of Bill Barilko. The plane had went down. They chalked it up to the fact that the pilot probably wasn't that experienced, bit of weather conditions, and the plane was a little overloaded.
No one knows the pilot's name, do they?
Who gives a shit?
Just because the dude don't know how to do a fucking hat trick, huh? Fucking no one knows his name.
My man over here goes, who gives a shit?
That's me, honey.
Okay, man. For
It is a beautiful place. I went with you, and it was really cool.
Oh, to the Hockey Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
You were there, man. You were there. First time I went with him, I'd been there before, and as I got there, like, you know, there's a relief plaque outside of kids coming over the boards to play. And I stop and I'm like, this was sculpted by blah, 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 and I'm telling them the story of it. And then I start going into the story of the Lucky Looney, from which the Canadians, you know, won the gold and back in the Olympics, both women's and men's team. And as I'm telling that story, I'm just, I start fucking choking up and I start crying and stuff. And he's looking at me like, he's on too many drugs. It was weird. It was this weird reversal where he was just like, I should intervene or something.
The story. Ooh, it was also because I was so into this story, and I'm like, and then what? And then what? And he was like, and underneath Neath, and I was like, so it was, you know, but yeah, it was sweet. It's an.
How did you get up here? You fly?
I did fly, man. I flew, and it was an exciting, lonely trip in a sense. I came with my wife. We flew up together, and I only say lonely. I'm sorry.
It was almost an afterthought. You're like, it was a lonely trip in many ways. Ironically, my wife was here.
Well, she slept half the way, and every time I fly, I don't know what it is. When I fly, I seem to always get a fucking rock solid erection. Like we get up there, and all of a sudden I'll be sitting there and I'll be adjusting. And the worst is too, if I'm really tired, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna set up everything, and then I'm gonna lay down and I'll fall right to sleep because I'll be like, you know, getting sleepy. But while I'm getting sleepy, it's always like. And I'm like, what the fuck?
So the little head's going to sleep and the big head's waking up?
Oh yeah, and he's like, you ain't sleeping yet, bitch. You take care of me. So my
Your cock threatens you on a regular basis?
Yeah, he fucking... Hello? He starts strangling my nut sacks and shit. So I'm like, oh. But so I try to wake my lady up because she's like moving around. So I know she's awake somewhat. And I'm like, yo, baby. I was like, come here. And I grab her hand, which isn't.
Wait, on a plane?
Yeah. Look, we're sitting there. There's blankets, right? I got to move. Put the blanket up like this. Over top my knees and stuff, so it's like a little tent.
So you create a little pup tent, and you're like, why don't you come in?
Yeah. Well, ideally, it would be nice if that would be a little risky. Like, I don't think even if the stewardess came over and was like, would you like a, whoa. You know, they're giving out hot towels and shit. I'm like, hold on a sec. Here. And I wipe her mouth and shit with the hot towel. I don't know if they dig that. So I just, I went for at least the jerk and shit. I'm thinking, all right, underneath she can be like, pretend that she's sleeping, but under doing this. And they wouldn't be able to tell even if they came over. But I grab her hand, I go for it. I was like, come on, let's just do this. And she fucking pulls away, and she's like, no, I'm sleepy, and I'm not going to do that anyway. They're going to see me. I'm like, they won't see us. And she's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm like, listen, well, if you're not going to fuck it, then I'm going to fuck myself. So,
wait, so the relationship here is your dick threatens you, you threaten your wife.
And she don't care at all where I do care. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna do it. Don't fucking strangle my nuts. And I like give him a little tweak and shit, but she just was like, I don't give a fuck. And
oh, you're kidding? She wasn't threatened by that somehow?
Not at all. No, not at all. So she just.
If you don't fuck me, I'm gonna fuck myself. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm like, fuck it. So I'm thinking, all right, do I try to spank here? Do I go into the bathroom? And sorry, I'm gonna sing every time. So then I go to do a couple strokes, and then I just feel weird about it because I'm like, all right, my legs are up, and I gotta, if they walk by and I make eye contact with the male stewardess, or I'm like, it's a little weird. And then there's always the dude. Then there's always...
you're not even, they don't call them stewardesses, let alone male stewardesses. We now go with flight attendant.
All right, male flight attendant. Oh yeah, there's like...
Thank you.
So there's the male flight attendant.
Give it up for the sound guy, man.
Yeah. The funny thing is, look. Well, top of the seat. And then I'm sitting there and I'm jerking and shit, and I'm holding on because I'm lefty, I'm jerking to here. But then as I go, wait. All right, so I'm sitting there and I'm holding here and I'm jerking here. And so I'm jerking it, but then, not again! So then I realized, though, that I'm just about to fucking break one off, and then I'm like, oh shit, where am I? do it. And you know, I go to grab those tissues, but they're like real, like they rip apart when you're trying to pull them out because they're fucking stuffed in there so tight. And they're ripping. I'm like, oh shit, and I crumple up a bunch. And so I don't know what to do because it's not working, and then now it's fucking interfering and distracting from the jerk session. So I say, fucking, I get up and I fucking spooey all in the sink. And, you know,
Hold on, what airline?
American Airlines.
Fair enough, keep it there.
And so there too, you know, in their sink, it's like their plunger thing stays closed, so there's always like just a little bit of water. You know what I mean? And you have to, it says right there, a big sign's like push down to make water. You know, they say it a little more articulated than I do, but
I don't think
it's
they
a-
say it at all. I think it's a sign.
There you have it. They sign it out to you a little more. Let's see which one works. And so it sits there and it's like fucking floating and it's stuck on the side. It's pretty gross, I gotta say. I know. What are you gonna do? So I press the little plunger and the water starts
I'll tell you what you can do. Not jerk off in a public sink, for one.
Again, it was my bad. I didn't prepare beforehand because I wasn't even sure and I wanted to make it fast. Because I'm like, all right, if I get this done, then I can go back and I could sleep. Because I just want to sleep when I'm on a plane. If it's, you know, half hour or 8 hours, I just want to sleep because I don't like flying. So I was like, all right, I get done, I can go back and I can sleep. So I go to press the thing, no, and first off, the water starts going down, but then like the fucking spooey's just fucking sticking around the rim.
I'm
and
sorry,
shit.
I was fucking around with the mics for a while. Are you still talking about your cum?
Yeah, so I'll drop that. So I get done, I get rid of it, I wash it out and shit. It took a little time, but then I get back to my seat and I feel like I'm okay. So I lay up and I try to get situated. I fucking set my iPad up, put some fucking Sherlock on and shit. I think I'm gonna go, yeah. I think I'm gonna fucking start falling asleep and then all of a sudden it's like, and again, I'm like, what the fuck? So then I'm like, all right, maybe my lady will go for it now. I go to grab her hand. Now she's just like, and fucking turns away. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it again. This should be awesome. I'm gonna fucking jerk it again. This time, though, I'm gonna stand up. So I go in, and you know how the fucking, the curvature of the plane's like that? So the weird thing is I have my head sitting there, and I'm leaning against it, and now I'm jerking and shit. I lift the toilet up because like I'm just gonna come right in that blue water and shit. And then then I'm gonna flush it and it's gonna go out the bottom of the plane and fucking spray a bunch of seagulls. That's what I was thinking. So I'm leaning there and I'm jerking and shit, and then all of a sudden, then I'm hitting turbulence though, and then I'm like, boom, 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 boom. And so it's distracting me, and I'm like, son of a bitch. So then I put my leg up on the toilet and shit, and I'm like, I just try to hurry up, and then I'm like, skeet, 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 skeet. And then it's all in the water and shit, and then the blue water turned
Wait,
a
you'd
little...
already jerked off like what, 10 minutes prior? Were you shooting dust at this point?
No. I had this. There was again. It was up. I don't know. It's the pressure or something. I was ready to go. This is twice now. So then I get that move down and I fucking fill the blue water. It's a creamy color. I run back to my seat and I'm like, I'm going to bed. So I go to bed. I fucking get up again and this happens a couple more times. And I fucking jerk. I'm trying to get my lady to do it and she wasn't having it.
Where did you fly from?
New Jersey. I'm telling you, it's the fucking...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't New Jersey like a 1 hour flight, man?
Like hour and 20. But you figure there's the fucking taxi in, you know, and all that stuff, so...
Yeah, that's...
But it was
You
exciting.
made it, you were not jerking off to the taxi as well, were you?
Not this time.
Have you done that?
No, I've not jerked, but I've played before with some vagina while taxiing.
While taxiing to take off or taxiing to
Taxiing when
land?
we land, because it started up top, and when I got landing, I was going for it and shit. We
Fuck,
was playing.
wait a second. Why would you tell a story about jerking off on a plane when you could tell a story about this?
Well,
Let me hear that.
I was... So again, boner, horny, and this time it opened up conversation to me, to the lady next to me. This is when I was single, now my lady. So I was single, and I'm sitting next to this woman, and we're chit-chatting and stuff, and then I had a boner, I'm like fixing myself, and she goes, what are you doing over there? I'm like, oh, nothing. I was like, you know what? It's weird. I'll tell you, I fucking always get a boner when I'm on a plane. I don't know what it is. When I'm on a plane, I'm just always horny, and I get a fucking rock-solid penis. And she's like, wow. And I was like, this might be a little weird, but does that happen to you? Like, for a female, does it work the same way? Does it make your clit
She's like, are you asking me if I get a boner?
I was like, do you get a little clit boner? You know, a little fucking fluid, fucking pump, a little blood flowing. And
A legitimate boner, if
yeah,
you will?
or a pee boner. Because either way, I want to touch it or jerk it off. No, but I opened that up, and she started being like, yeah. And then I was like, do you get a little moist when you're down, you know, on the plane and it gets exciting? She's like, I don't know. And I was like, fucking, I'm going for it. I'm like, why don't you see? And she's like, right now. I was like, yeah, just why don't you see? So again, we had blankets on. I was like, just put the blanket up and take a move. And so she goes down there, and she's like, yeah, it's a little bit. And I was like, get out of here. I was like, let me see. I'm thinking, you know, if I say, let me see, she's like, get out of here. No, fuck you. You're an asshole. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go to bed, put my headphones on, and hopefully that she don't tell someone I get in trouble. But anyway, she's like, if you want. And so I make the move, and I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I just fucking, and then all of a sudden I slip down, I start feeling, and it's fucking moist. Just talking about it, which was exciting. Because I knew in my head that my boner talk and me talking about her getting excited got her excited. So it was like this.
I know there will be a number of wonderful guests here at Fan Expo Canada over the next few days, some sitting right up here on this very stage. Please warn them not to drink the fucking water. Because you hear what he does on planes with those hands. Okay, continue.
So I'm playing around and stuff, and this, again, it was pretty exciting. I'm getting into it, I'm like, wow. And then I realized, I'm like, so, what's your name? What's your name? And then we start chatting and shit, and then I go grab her hand, and I start sliding it slowly, because I didn't want to just grab it and put it on there, because for some reason in my head, I'm like, even though she's letting me, you know, touch her business, she might be like, what the fuck? I'm not touching your dick. I don't know your name or anything. So I'm like going slow.
Oh, she might be one of those fucked up weird people.
Yeah.
Who demands to know your identity before they take their naughty bits out.
Well, I'm saying she already the weird thing I'm saying is that she let me touch her bits, but I still was thinking there might still be a line, like, oh, I won't cross the line of me touching your penis.
I think in a world where you're just like, man, I got a boner. Do you get wet? Let me see. I think you're fine, dude. I think we've established a very liberal relationship with an utter stranger.
Well, I was hoping so, but you know, I wanted to take it. You know, I wanted to make sure.
You want to be a gentleman.
Yeah, so I moved her hand slow, and then I make the little tent with my fucking knees again. Excuse me, I lift it up and shit, and then I move her hand. She just moves her hand away from my hand and goes for it, man, and starts fucking wop, 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 wop. She starts jiggling my fucking nuts with the two fingers. And I was like, oh shit. And so we're fooling around and
Doing
stuff.
that while going whoop, 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 whoop.
Well, you know, she's fucking, because she's moving, she's going this way, right? She's doing a little stroke piece, little stroke them, and then going down, and she went for the nuts. But because I had pants on, you know, she had to go a little tight, and then so it was exciting, and then I almost wanted to move forward and see if she'd go for the fucking brown and shit. Just stick it right in my, why not? Hey, man.
I gotta tell you, man, normally I'd be like, you pig, but in this instance, it sounds like, you know, you can be like, how about you stick your finger in my ass?
Yeah. And so we were playing, and then I just started getting really excited, and I'm like, it's like, man, let's go in the bathroom. I was like, you want to make a move and go for the bathroom? She's like, yeah, I want to go for the bathroom. We can maybe do it. And then all of a sudden, it's like, please put your seatbelts on and turn off all electronics. We are descending and stuff. So I'm like, oh, fuck, there's no way we're going to be able to get in there.
And then you're like, wait a second, that warning didn't say anything about third base.
She locked my hand in the seatbelt. I was like, oh, shit. No, so we stopped doing that because, of course, they come down, they make you put your seat up and everything, and I knew they were going to be feeling it. So we start chatting, and now I get her number and stuff, and I was like, whoa, we got to fucking some unfinished business, if you know what I'm saying. So, that was that. Until we landed, we walked off, did a little chatting on the runway out to the fucking thing, and then went to get the luggage, and then I had to go somewhere. I think I was being picked up, but I called her later on, and that's for another day.
What's your name?
No, I'm just kidding. Do you want me? I did seal the deal. It was fucking awesome.
I know this story, man. I think I've heard this story.
I don't know if you heard about seal. You might have heard the seal the deal part. So yeah, you might have.
Why? What's the seal?
Well, I'm saying when I got I was coming here. I believe I was coming here for something.
It was here?
Yeah, I was coming here, and
don't you think that's an integral part of the fucking story, man?
Oh, well, sorry.
like, and you'd never get a chance to tell a story about Toronto in Toronto and feel like, oh, by the way, it happened here.
Well, it happened before. I was telling that part. We were in fucking, we were yeah, we were on route and shit. So, and I had to go. I think I was maybe coming for Degrassi. And so I later on called her up and fucking wanted to see what she was doing later that night when I was done doing what I had to do. And I went over there. She was all for it. She was like, come on over. But then I started thinking, the weird thing is I start getting paranoid on the way there because I'm like, I don't know this girl at all. What if I walked in and shit and she has a bunch of people waiting there and they're like, snitch to the do! Boom! And, shit, and all of a sudden they tie me up and shit and they're like, oh, this was a ploy. Shoving water bottles in my ass and I get all paranoid.
You're afraid you're going to be turned into the gimp?
I'm just going to they're going to tie me up, fuck me, they're going to tie my fucking neck to my ankle, so every time I let my fucking ankle down, I'm like, or something crazy. You never know. So I just, I watch too much TV, I think that, I got nervous, but when I got there.
You know how people wind up with their fucking hands tied behind them and dead in fucking car trunks and shit? It all starts with, do you know I get boners on planes?
No. It was possible. You know what it would be, though? What if she was like, you know what, I cannot believe this asshole told me he gets boners and he's talking to me like that. He don't fucking respect me. But I'm gonna let him play with my pussy so I can employ him into my house so he can fuck this pussy. And then I'll decide later if I'm gonna tie him up or let him fuck me and then tie him up. Or let him fuck me and if he's good, let him go. So you never know.
I like how you, like Batman, you play out all the angles. Every scenario in your head, just so you can't be surprised.
I climbed up the side of the house and shit. I was peeking in the window beforehand, waiting to see what she was up to. What if I did do that and she's behind the door with a fucking bat and shit? Right? Just waiting for me to come in. Do I go for it? Do I go to catch the bat and be like, and then I was like, this is part of your fun game.
No, what I would dig about it, though, is in order to tell that story, you have to admit that you were a peeping Tom. Because I'd be like, how'd you know she had a bat behind the door? You're like, what? Because I was looking through her window. Maybe she had the bat because she saw some creepy fuck looking through her window.
Waiting. I know he's going to come around and come in here.
So wait, did you wind up fucking her?
I did wind up fucking her. I wind up going in. I wind up going over again. I had these thoughts, but when I got there, it was totally the opposite. There was no bats. There was no fucking ropes or anything. It was just her in these little fucking booty shorts and a tank top and shit. And she's like, oh, come on in and stuff. And the awesome thing is it was that weirdness of all right, I know she invited me over and we talked about hey, we have unfinished business. But still then I was like, do I just make the move or do you think does she want to sit down and be like, hey, you want to watch a movie? You want some popcorn or something? But it wasn't that. It was just straight up fucking grab me, fucking throw me on the bed. We start making out and shit. And I fucking start pulling my pants off. I fucking just go to pull her shorts to the side because I can't even, I'm impatient and shit. And I just want to fuck.
You're moving the whole stage.
So it was pretty exciting, and it got pretty wild. Like, just stuff like that just went right to the fucking. But then the awkward part, I feel, was after, like there's that build-up the whole time. It's like, we know each other so well, it doesn't matter because my penis is in you and we're sweating on each other and I'm licking your pussy, so we are one. But then after you're like,
I don't even feel like that with my wife. And I think if I were to admit all of that to her mid-coitus, she'd be like, this is over.
all right, well, maybe not so much we are one, but there's still the I guess it would be.
You were being intimate. You were sharing time. You were deep in her body.
There was
You
passion,
felt a
there was
certain
some
closeness.
sex, and there was some of this and that. But then I feel like when it's that moment, it's like, and the fucking face goes on, and I come fucking all over, and then I'm like, then it's just like, okay, now what? Do we sit here and cuddle? I don't really want to, but does she want me to? And then she gets up, puts her clothes on. She's like, I gotta get up early tomorrow. It was good. Thanks for coming over. I was like, score! And then I got to go home, and that was that. Boom, boom, boom. But it was, that was good.
Tales of
worked out.
adventure, man. That was, I think I remember you telling me that story.
I told you, well, I was excited about it. I probably rushed home and was like rubbing my dick while I told you and shit. I'm like, I just got back from
And we were on a plane.
I'm like, are you hard?
I said that to I didn't say that exact thing to my wife, but I called my wife earlier today, and normally I'm just like, hey man, it's me, or whatever. But I was like, I'm gonna play around with her and shit. So she answered the phone, she's like, hello, and she sounded pretty exasperated, but I was like, fuck it, I'll go for it anyway. And I was like, what are you wearing? And she goes, 6 fucking teenagers, what do you want? I was like, what's going on? And she's just like, Harley's got a bunch of friends over, I can't talk. I was like, okay, bye. And I hung up and I was like, fuck her, and I jerked off.
Yes.
Okay, so normally right about now on the show I would read tweets and whatnot that I read ahead of time and pull a few and answer them. But what we like to do when we do Jay and Silent Bob Get Old at a Comic-Con is open it up to Q&A at the end. So instead of answering tweets from strangers, we'll open it up to you guys and do Q&A with you guys after we do the show proper and stuff. So stick around for that kind of thing by the time we're done. But I do want to read out one tweet that I saw before we started the show that made me smile, because it's Canadians are always rumored to be polite and stuff. This is very insanely polite. It's the most polite bitchingest quote I've ever read on Twitter. Here you go. It's via Jacob the Zombie. Are you here, man? There he is. Jacob the Zombie tweeted, waiting in the longest line I've ever seen to see the show. The guy in front of me smells like butt hair. Now, I'm pretty sure on Twitter you can say whatever you want. Like, I've tweeted about eating my wife's asshole and stuff like that. This dude went with butt hair. I thought that was so adorable, man. He got his rage across, but he tempered it with like, I'm fucking mad as butt hair. Anyway, glad you got in, man. He's way in the back. How many people have never heard the podcast before? Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. Put your hands together real quick. Now, how many people have heard the show, Jay and Silent Bob? For those of you unfamiliar with it and whatnot, we're just about ready to get the show started. So what I would do is fill you in. There's some cats who have never heard of the show before, have heard about us, from the movies or know us from the movies or something, and then show up and there's always this moment of confusion where they're like, why aren't you guys wearing costumes? And why is the fat one talking so much? So we always feel the need to tell people what it is, just in case they're unfamiliar. Jay and Silent Bob Get Old is an intervention podcast. We gather when we do this show to sit down and talk to Jason Mewes about his life as a way to keep him off the drugs that had kind of taken him away from us so many times, heroin and was called out over there. So that's pretty much what the show is. We don't, show up and put on our costumes. It would be a weird show if we just stood here and he yammered and I just nodded a lot. Sometimes, that happens when he's telling a story, but then periodically I get to talk as well. It's not nearly as entertaining. It never ends with somebody getting fucked on a plane. Usually it ends with some guy getting fucked off a plane, I'll tell you that much. Anywho. So this is the point of the show, man. My favorite part of the show, and it's probably going to sound an awful lot like the first part of the show, but what we do on Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, help Mewes stay clean, is Mewes tells us a debauched tale of a sexual ribaldry, if you will. Patented Jason Mewes sex stories. So Mr. Mewes, take it away. Tell us something naughty.
Naughty business.
I like how you switched up the voice.
This is naughty business. This was a time my wife actually went for the fucking. But we went and got a.
Oh, your fucking wife who won't jerk you off on a plane?
She wouldn't jerk me off on a plane, but I tried to talk her into it, and she sort of eased into it. A massage. We went to go get and I'm probably gonna say it wrong, but a Hammam. We went to like the Hammam spa where you go and they fucking. I'll explain later. You'll understand when I start getting it. But first, when you get there, you get undressed, you get in a robe, and they bring you into this like concrete room with two like booths, and then there's this little tiny skinny table, and it's so weird because there's like these little Jello cubes or something, and I guess it's like some sugar to get you going, and you start sweating because it's so hot and fucking steamy in there. But we're sitting there in the robe, and we're sitting there talking. I'm like, this is gonna be fun, right? This is gonna be awesome. And she's in her robe, and the robe starts falling off, little sort of nips hanging out. And we get they brought us in there and they said, hang out in here for a little bit and then we'll come get you. But anyway, so I knew we had some time and her boobs hanging out. And, we're sitting there, so her part of her robe at the bottom starts sliding down. Now I see just a little lip hanging out. And so we're sitting there talking about...
So she's got nip slip and lip slip as well?
Yeah, man, the two slippage and shit. And then we have little fucking sugar cube here. So I'm like... So I started getting excited, and I started thinking, like, this would be fucking pretty hot and shit. Well, hot. It would be fucking this big steamy box. Let me get in your steamy box. So I was like, come on, man, this will be fun. This will be exciting. Like, we got our robes on. We'll keep the robes around us, but you sort of just come over on the bench and squat on me and shit. And we'll start doing, fool around a little bit. And she's like, no, I don't want to. So I went and sat next to her, and I start rubbing her a little bit. And she's like, no, what if they come in? And I'm like, it's going to be fine. We'll be hidden. So finally we start kissing and stuff and fooling around. And she gets on top of me, and we start doing it and shit. But it's sort of that, we were getting into it, but it was sort of like, oh, yeah. But then we think we hear something, so we're like, but we're getting, and now I'm starting to, besides that, like it's exciting, it's fun, but I think we hear something, but then we start getting into it, and I'm getting sweaty, and I'm like having trouble breathing because it's so fucking hot in there. I'm like, but then,
what a fucking champ you are, like, let's get our sex on. And then you start, and you're just like, oh my God, oh my angina.
Well, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad yet, but to myself, I'm like, oh yeah, but I won't let her know. And I start sucking her boob and shit, so my head's down here, and she won't see that I'm like, but then I look
like,
over.
You're steaming up my nipple.
And then the weird thing, there's this moment where I'm like, oh shit. I grab the fucking, that little jelly cube or whatever it was. It was like Jello. I was like, but then I was like,
So you ate the Jello?
So I was trying to get her.
Wait, you're in the middle of fucking and you ate?
Well, I was trying to be safe.
I'm just gonna say for the record, not even I've never done that.
I was trying to be sexy about it though. I was like, I thought we were fooling around. I'd bring this jelly cube over and like I'd bite half, she'd bite half, and then we'd like start making out and shit. But it didn't work so well.
The Lady in the Tramp or something?
Yeah. A little bit. So we're doing that, and then all of a sudden I hear something again, and we're both like. So it wasn't so sexy because like she was biting it, and I looked over and I like fell out and drooled on the floor and shit. And then she just like, all right, we should just hurry up. They're definitely gonna come in. So we start going. I'm like, you know, and I'm like fucking dripping with sweat and shit. And I'm just trying to get myself to come. I'm like, I hope you come too, but I'm just gonna come. If you can't come, it doesn't matter because I'm coming, but I'll try later for you. I'll get you later. I swear I love you. I'll get you later. But then like I start getting
I'll get you later, babe.
but then I start getting so fucking, I'm like, again, it was so hot, and I'm like getting weak and shit and like dizzy a little bit, that my arms aren't able to hold her up. And she, even though she was using her feet, it was like slippery, you know, we're fucking sick. So all of a sudden we're like, and all of a sudden she starts sliding off and my dick starts bending forward. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa! And she fucking slips down. Luckily it wasn't hard, so she didn't like fall and hurt herself. But this little table's there, and she slips down and goes, poof, falls in this little table, and it's like, and all of a sudden I like help her up, and I'm like, hurry up, because I knew they were gonna come in, and I was like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine.
You fucking dropped off your lap. You're like, get the fuck up before we get in trouble.
I was like, you okay? Hurry up, you better get up there. They're gonna come in and stuff. And so we whipped our robes on and shit, and she sits down, and like, I'm fixing the table. They come in and go, is everything all right? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And then I'm like, fuck, I didn't come. Shit. And I'm like, you okay? She's like, yeah. I'm like, fuck, I didn't come. And they're like, okay, come on, man, you guys been in here long enough. Let's go into this other part. And this is where it's awesome. It's one of those, it's like this big room, and there's this like stone tables, and you lay on them, and they start fucking scrubbing you down and shit. Like you would take your robe off, and you're butt naked.
You're naked?
Yeah, you lay on this thing, you pull your balls and my penis up and shit, and they sit there, but they put like a little towel just over like the crack of your ass in that area, so it's like a little washcloth. And so we're there, but for the most part you're naked because they're scrubbing your ass cheek and your side, and they're like rubbing you all over the place. So I'm laying on my stomach, and I'm like holding my lady's hand, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I start getting a fucking little bit of a wood because I'm laying on my dick now, and it's soft, but it's laying up, right? But he's scrubbing my dick, and it was a man. I want to admit it.
Okay, I'm gonna call foul on your storytelling capabilities once again. Quite like how the other story was important that it took place in Toronto, you might not want to bury, by the way, it was a guy. So the dude's scrubbing you from behind, you're laying dick down, holding your lady's hand, which I know you put into the story so that it doesn't sound like some dude got you hard. You had a little bit of lady influence in there. There was a girl in the room, so you're holding her hand, he's pushing you down, and it's making you a little bit turgid.
Yeah, because it's not because I'm saying the rubbing, it's what it is like if I laid on this table and you sat here and you grabbed my ass and started pushing me front and back, my dick would be rubbing against it, and automatically he'd be like, this friction is making me excited, Jason. I'd be like, stop it, it's Kevin pushing your ass. And then he would be like, meh. And so that's what it was.
I call bullshit. Get on the table. Let's see.
No, we'd have to do it for a long time.
How long did the dude do it?
So he would scrub my back and my ass.
I'll
right?
just keep it, but what you said, your thesis is if I'm pushing your ass like so.
Exactly. See, my penis is rubbing.
Right,
Eventually,
I'll
I'm going
keep
to get
going. You tell your story.
All right, so he's doing this.
Somebody keep time. I need 30 seconds.
Go!
I'm getting a little hard while he's doing this, and I'm also thinking about before, though. And see that he's getting.
I'm trying my hardest, man.
It's getting a little fluffy. It's like it's getting a little full. All right.
The stage is moving, dude.
Hold on, I'm coming. I'm coming. So that's what he was doing, though, with a little more of the shoulders
But
and
did
up
you get
and
a
down.
little hard?
I didn't get hard now, but I actually, seriously, there's like blood flowing there. Before it was like tightened up. Hey, I gotta say, the rubbing back and forth like that, right? is gonna get it going. So I'm not saying.
No, I'm saying, dude, that if I was in a public place and I'm laying on a stone fucking table, even if I'm holding my lady's hand and I got a dude behind me pushing my dick into something else, into a fleshlight, I would still not get hard because there's that other person in the room, man. And also, I couldn't get hard because it sounds like you're not wearing any clothes. Like, that is a nightmare to me. That doesn't sound pleasurable at all. That sounds like I died, and when I went to heaven, they were like, you made Dogma, and they sent me to hell. And when I got there, they were like, I was like, what's going to happen to me? They're like, for all eternity, you're going to go get a rub down naked. You know, I'd be like, that's my idea of a nightmare. I'm wearing 5 layers right now.
All 12 apostles are going to be scrubbing your ass and shit and rubbing you. Well, no, but it's, again, it was the rubbage, the holding, and the actual act that we were doing before.
What are you holding now? Because now,
I was
when you
holding
go like
her hand.
this and it's the dude masseuse, I'm thinking,
No.
it's like a John Travolta situation or something like that.
No, because I was holding her hand, and I'm saying I like zoned out because it felt good, not the rubbing of the man, but the actual scrubbing and the water and the bathing and us being naked and shit. And I was like, running just as fast as we can, holding on to one another's hand. That's what I was thinking in my head. So it just started getting a little full of blood. It wasn't fucking hard, but it was like, it was solid. If I pulled it out, I could have been like this. You know, I could fucking smack someone upside the nose. So anyway, so that happened, and then I'm like, oh shit, go down, because when they're done here, we're gonna have to get up. But after
Did they flip you over? Like at one point, will you have to flip over and then they rub your
No,
thigh?
they just do that, but they do get up inside like the inner thigh and shit. Like I was like, this dude's knuckles gonna hit my nuts. I know it. His knuckles gonna hit my nuts, but he didn't. He's a pro. So then when they were done, they're like, okay, you can rest for a minute and fucking get up and get your robe back on. They leave the room again, and so I'm sitting there and I got a little thing, I'm holding her hand, I'm like, we should fool around again for a minute. And she's like, no way, they're gonna come right back and shit. So we get up, get our robe on and shit, and I'm like telling her, I'm like, I got a little excited there, man. My fucking meat packet was full with blood and shit. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you could touch it a little bit. She's like, no.
It's a wonder that she says no when you put it that way. You want to touch my shit, my meat packet, motherfucking dead. You got some blood and shit, and look at it awful and shit, and touch it. Chick's just like, I'll pass, dude.
So we go, but then, so they come back in, and now they bring us to this other section. It was sort of like a little jacuzzi, but now it's like, it was like cold water, like not freezing cold, but it was sort of cold water, and you sit in it. I guess it's supposed to open up pores or do something or whatever, but I'm sitting there and shit, and now they leave, and they're like, all right, we're gonna give you like 5, 10 or so, and we'll come back and then we'll bring you back and get you an actual massage going. So we're sitting in there, I'm like, he said we got like 5 or so, come on. She's like, no, it's too cold in here and I don't want to do it. And I'm like, okay, but now I could see some lips and shit, and I see a little this and a little that, and so I just start rubbing my dick, and I'm looking like this, like a creep. And I'm like, yeah, but why don't you just let me touch it or do something? And she's like, no, I'm not doing it again.
Aren't you in freezing cold water?
I am, but my fucking shit's big. Now it's all mental. Now it's the mind over matter and shit. He's like, I will not accept cold. Get inside the warm pussy. I said pussy. So I'm like just stroking and shit, and I'm just looking and I'm playing around a little bit, trying to talk her into doing some business, but she ain't having it because it's cold, and then they're gonna come back in, and now there ain't anything to hide from. So they come back in, they're like, okay, get out and get your robe on and stuff, we're gonna go to the back. So I'm like, oh fuck. So I'm thinking, do I just sit here and jerk it and come? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna let it go down. So they leave again, get the robe on and shit, and then we go out and meet him in this corridor area, and they bring us back to these tables now in this back room. And so we get on, and they're like, all right, we get under they tell you to get under the sheet and shit, and they're rubbing us, and we're getting the massage, and it's nice. But again, I'm still thinking, I'm like, oh man, I want to fucking finish this motherfucker. My nuts are like filled with fucking a bunch of my boys and shit. I got a bunch of fucking kids just hanging out in there going, come on, let's go. Let's get. So my nuts are solid and they're ready to go. And now I'm obsessing about the sex. I'm enjoying the massage and I'm enjoying everything. And I'm like, this is cool. We're getting this scrub down. And now we're sitting in here and we're in the steam. And now we're getting a massage and it feels good and all that. So it's all going. But all I'm thinking about is that. So massage is over. I fucking have half a stock again, blood full.
Is there ever a time where you don't have half a stock?
Not in this process. This process was, we started off with the business and now he's just ready to go. Because again, I didn't fucking go, I didn't get time to. So now I'm thinking of that. But again, there's like, it sort of was sexy because we're sitting walking around this fucking thing and I felt like all I needed was a fan and some fucking grapes. And fucking if she was jerking me off and shit, I'd be like, this is awesome. Someone's rubbing my shoulders and shit. Anyway, it was just the whole vibe of it. And then plus from the start there, and then getting rubbed and all that. So now we're on the tables. And so they do the thing, I have some fucking half a stock. And then they're done. And you know, when they're done, they're always like, okay, you know, just get up slowly, have some water. We left some water here on the table and shit. And when you're done, just come out. So I'm like, all right, we're fucking good, man. They're going out there. They're going to wait in the hallway until we're going to take our time because we better not get up fast because we'll get dizzy type of thing. So I'm like, yo, we got time.
You got a cover story now.
Yeah, so she gets up and she's sitting on the bench and I go over and I just start kissing and going for it because I'm like, she's going to get into it. So we're kissing and shit and we're on the table and I'm like, and fucking doing my business and shit. And then I'm like, how about I get on top of the table and lay down? Because we're standing up now, which is exciting, right? So, right, and there's the legs are up like this.
The stage is gonna fall. I can feel it.
I won't get too crazy.
Just go on the floor. Do it on the floor.
So then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll lay down on the table, but I'm like, that ain't working. So I'm like, all right, put your foot up here, put one ankle around here. And so we're going at it. And she's like, all right, now we've been in here too long. You're going to wonder what's going on. I'm like, shh. So and I'm like, I was like, I'll get you later. And then she's like, no, I'm gonna. And all of a sudden, fucking, you see how this table is here in the massage table? I'm like, oh yeah. And she's like, yeah. All of a sudden, fucking, boom. The fucking legs move forward underneath and the fucking thing comes out. I'm like, ah! And I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, are you okay? And then I'm like, all this, we can finish. And she's like, no, you ruined it. They're gonna come in. And I was like, ah. And I was like, and I fucking come and I fucking finish. And then I help her up. And she's like, you fucking asshole, what if they come in? And I hand her a robe and I fucking put it around her. I put it around me. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get you later. And now
give it up for a Jason Mewes sex story, man. I slept with my mother. Not in any kind of way that you described right now. She lives in Florida, so I was out there for the Star Wars celebration. So I did a Q&A there, and then afterwards she wanted to stay where I was staying at the hotel. And I'd said earlier in the day, I'll have a bed sent up. And then I was like, that must be weird, like, you know, for me to be like, look, you'll sleep here and I'll sleep here because we can't be in the same bed. I used to be in this fucking woman's body at one point. So I said, you know what, man, I'm fucking 42, my mother's 67 and shit. At this point, it's totally fine for us to share a bed. So we went, I was done with the show, we went out to eat with my brother and his husband. And then we came back to the hotel, and I said, Mom, put your PJs on and stuff, because otherwise she'll stay up all night long. So she's like a kid, you know, because we don't get to spend a lot of time together. Yeah. So she's just like, tell me everything that's going on. And at the end of the day, I was like, I'll tell you in the morning. I just want to go to sleep. But I said to calm her down because she's so,
Wake up.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
She does. She'll do that. Like I'll be in the middle of a conversation with her and I'll start falling asleep. And most people let you fall asleep, but my mom's like, "Tiger, wake up!" And I'm like, "Oh." And then she'll continue the story. So I said, "All right, man, we're gonna watch a movie." We picked a movie out. It was a movie called The Good Doctor with Orlando Bloom. It was on one of the in-room movies, and it's about a doctor who gets spoilers. He gets, he's got a patient and he wants to keep the patient at the hospital, so he makes her sick and stuff. It was a pretty tight flick. It was real enjoyable, and the whole time she's commenting on it back and forth to me going, oh, because my mother spends a lot of time at doctors and stuff like that. So she's literally doing the diagnosis before the doctor in the movie does the diagnosis. And my mom is like, they'll cut to a shot of the paperwork or something like that, and they'll have initials, and my mom calls out what the initials are, and she'll say something like blah, 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 TKA meant something, and she said it, and then all of a sudden on TV, 5 seconds later, they said it. I was like, holy shit, you're good at this doctor stuff. And she said, I spend a lot of time at doctors. And that came into play. My mom has, what do they call it when you can't breathe at night? Sleep apnea. My mother has sleep apnea. So she has to wear a device to go to sleep with, because sleep apnea is a condition of, I have it too, and I imagine as I get older, it'll become something where I'm gonna have to do what my mom did. But it's a condition where you stop breathing in your sleep sometimes. Your passageway becomes blocked, or sometimes you just, breathing is involuntary. It's just something we do whether we're thinking about it or not. When you have the sleep apnea, you do this a lot, where you'll be like, that's sleep apnea. And that last part, that is hell on your heart, because what happens is your body has stopped breathing, and then all of a sudden your body's like, we're dying! And then you gasp for breath, you usually wake yourself up, and it's hell on your heart. And if you do it many times per night, you're constantly startling your heart. It's like jump start to your heart. So, they don't want you to do that, and there's ways they can treat it. Of course, you can treat it with pills and medicine and shit, but another way is to treat it with this device that she brought with her. And it's a little thing, it's a mask that goes over her face, and it hooks into this little generator that you plug in, and essentially it just pushes air into you all the time, so it keeps you breathing regularly. It's not an oxygen machine, it wasn't giving her oxygen, but it just keeps your breathing regulated. It's loud as fuck, and we're sharing a bed, so the whole time it's like, I imagine she told me, she's like, I gotta wear this thing. I was like, oh, don't worry about it, Ma. I could sleep through anything, man. I'm friends with Jason Mewes. Sure enough, man, my mom puts the thing on and shit, and it's just like, loud as fuck. Felt like I was sleeping with Darth Vader.
So it's not
Which
even
is
a
really
calm
weird,
noise.
because I looked over and she looked like Bane. She had this fucking mask on. The mask that she put on that keeps her breathing regulated for sleep apnea covers her face here, and there are hoses going out the side, and there's a piece that straps over the middle of her head. So she literally looks like she's wearing Bane headgear. Wow. So when she put it on, I was just like, this might be the best night ever. But I was fucking like, she hasn't seen The Dark Knight Rises, so I had no point of reference with her, man. So I can't just be, I was dropping lines all night hoping that she'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. But it meant nothing to her, so she'd be sitting, give me the trigger! Where's the trigger?
She's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I start playing Batman. I was running up behind her in bed with my fingers like this behind my head. I am justice. It was weird. The mask, very, very fucking Bane-like, and with the breathing, very Darth Vader-like. So it was weird. It was like spending the night with my childhood, and also my fandom present. But also, and being that it was my mother, it was like spending not my childhood, my zygotehood. Because last time I'd been in bed with her probably way, way back in the day when I was like in her belly and shit. So it was a weird night, and I woke up and I went to sleep, man. I smoked weed before I went to sleep and stuff. So when I woke up, I'd forgotten. I knew I was sleeping with my mother. I didn't wake up with my hand on her tit or something. There was no Back to the Future type situation whatsoever. I knew to stay on my side of the bed and stuff like that. But also, I did forget that she had the gear on, and I think I forgot because it shuts off at a certain point, or she shut it off herself. So there was no, at a certain point, there was no, there was none of that noise, the repetitive white noise. So I'd forgotten about it. But when I woke up and I was kind of coming to, I looked over and my mother was facing away from me. And then I moved in the bed and she rolled forward and she had that fucking mask on. And I was just like, holy shit. So fucking shy. I was, you know, just waiting for her to be like, you know, when I can't even do it. I was gonna laugh too hard when I was doing it. Tiger, when Gotham is in ashes. You have my permission to die. And I would do that, like I told her, thank you. I told her this morning, man, I was just like, it's fucked up, you don't even get it. You look like Bane, man. And she's like, who's Bane? I was like, he's in the new Batman movie. It's crazy, man. He wears the mask piece like you. And she's like, well, now I feel embarrassed. I was like, no, don't feel embarrassed, but let me do some fucking lines with you from the movie. Put it on, and I'll pretend to be Bane's voice for you. And she's like, okay. And she put it on. We went over to the mirror, and I stood behind her. I was like, well, perhaps she's wondering why he would shoot a man. Before throwing him out of a plane. Yeah. And she's like, I don't get it. And I was like, I do, this is amazing. But it was weird. It was weird to spend the night like with my mom. Like weird, not in the like, oh, I don't ever want to do that again. But you don't get that chance very often, the older one gets. And I remember like when my father died, like one of when I think about my youth with my father, my childhood, my old man used to watch a show called Bowling for Dollars, and I would, with that guy right there. And when he watched it, I'd watch it with him, and I was not a big bowling fan, but like, this was in the days before cable, before fucking internet, so you literally had 3 channels in the States. Up here, I think they had a half a channel. So there wasn't like many options, particularly during the day, but Bowling for Dollars seemed to be a daily show, and so we'd always lay there and watch it. My old man would lay on the floor in front of this gigantic TV, and when I say gigantic, it wasn't like, it was a big screen. Like TVs back in those days were as big as cars, and the TV screen was small, but it was the console was massive. Like it was literally a piece of furniture that you put decorations on and shit. Some people ate on top of the television. So the TV would be there. My father would lay kind of parallel to the television. So if you're the TV, he'd be laying on his back on the floor with his head watching the TV that way. And then I would lay on top of his stomach and watch TV like he was a pillow. So we'd create a kind of T effect, and I'd watch the show and he'd watch the show, and if he giggled, I'd move. Because I was laying on top of him. And then the older you get, you know, of course you don't do that because you're like, it's gay to lay on your dad's belly, you know. Which is really not true, you know. I mean, unless your dad's like, lay on my belly, you know, then that's not gay, that's pederasty, you know. That's fucking something completely different. So, but you know, you get to a certain age where you're like, I can't do that kind of shit. Like, you know, I used to tell my father good night in this dopey voice, like from a Frankenstein movie. Like one night I did it when I was like 9 years old. My father would go to bed like 7 o'clock, he'd sleep for 2 hours, get up at 9 o'clock and go to work at 10 o'clock. He worked the night shift at the post office. So before he went to bed at 7 o'clock, like he'd get a 2-hour nap essentially, you know, we'd all say goodnight to him and shit. My brother, my sister, and I. And then my mom would be like, okay, you guys go. I'm going to say goodnight to your father, which later on in life I would realize meant because how the fuck else do you go to sleep at 7 o'clock at night, man? I know my father was like, the kids are gone, Grace. Do your duty, you know. So then, so whenever we'd go say goodnight, there was one night we'd been watching like a horror movie or something. I went for an Igor type voice. And I said, good night, master. Not even like that, good night, master. I didn't even put as much into it as I did then because I was a little embarrassed, but I'll do it the exact way I did it as a kid. Good night, master. And my father laughed and my mother loved it. And so every night for the next 5 years, I had to always say, good night, master. And I remember like fighting it later in life, my mother being like, say it for your father. And I'd be like, no, good night, master, goodbye. And she'd be like, no, do it the way you would do it. And eventually, I stopped altogether. When my father died, the first two things I thought about, because I saw him laid out, he went to an emergency room. I've told this story many times. But he was laid out on a gurney in the emergency room. I showed up, he was already passed. And I went in, and the nurses and doctor pointed me over there. He was in an ER room by himself behind curtains, laying on a gurney under a blanket, and he still had the intubation tube in his mouth. He was gone. It was fucking strange, because, I'd just seen him the night before. We'd had dinner with him, the whole family's together. We were all laughing and shit. He was eating filet mignon, eating cheesecake, throwing back Manhattans, and maybe that combination perhaps not the best, for a man who was already diabetic and had some heart problems or whatever. But he loved life, and that night particularly, he was really loving life. His kids were there, surrounded by his kids and his wife, having a great fucking time and stuff. And that was only a scant 8 hours prior, and there I was, less, maybe 6 hours later, and here he was just gone, lifeless, laying on the gurney. So the first two things that occurred to me, because I was like, shit, the window is closing. Time is running out at that point. It's run out for my father, but it's running out for me and my father, because soon they'll put him in the ground or cremate him or whatever. First two things that occurred to me. One of the first things was the fact that we would watch Bowling for Dollars together, and there he was laying on the gurney. So I was just like, I'm never, ever gonna have this opportunity again. And even if he was alive, I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity, because it would be an awkward thing to be like, Dad, can you lay down on the floor and can I lay on your stomach like I used to when I was a kid, And I'm sure my father would have been like, what's going on, but couldn't have that conversation with him. But here he was passed, laying on the gurney, and I took that moment to like literally put my head on his stomach on, this is it. I'll never get to do this again. And I hadn't thought about it in years, and then the first thing I wanted to do was put my head on his belly. And then as I was leaving the room, I said, good night, master. And he couldn't hear me, but still I said it. So it was a weird moment. No. It was a weird moment, and I always felt like when a moment like when your mom's like, hey man, you want to sleep here in the bed with me? Naturally, your first instinct is like, oh no, it's cool, I'll sleep over here. But having thought about that, and having thought like, my mom is like 67, and who knows how much time she has left, I wasn't gonna fight that. I felt like, let's totally get in bed together. I had no idea I was gonna be waking up to fucking bang, but it was cool. I was able to kind of put aside that weirdness, and it's one of these things where you can't make it a regular occurrence. It would weird my wife out if I was like, I'm gonna go sleep with my mom tonight, Like, again, Kevin? I'm like, yes, who knows how many more chances I'll have. But it was a real nice thing to do, and I'm not saying everyone go out there and sleep with your mothers. Not in that way, but don't be afraid, man, to bond with your parents in that way that you did with a kid. You get, maybe it's easy for me to say, because not only am I a person who's lost a parent, but I'm also a parent myself. I got a kid. Parents love nothing more than that connection that they have with their kids, and they long for it their whole fucking lives. One of my favorite things I've ever read in my life, and I'm a big fan of writing, a big fan of good writing and strong writing, wonderful writing that you always find in classics and literature, and comic books as well, graphic novels, Frank Miller, Alan Moore. But one of my favorite pieces of writing ever was written by Jennifer's mother, Gail, and she wrote her this Mother's Day piece, put together a picture book, but she wrote a bunch of text, and the most relevant piece that I was like, oh my God, it makes sense. Jen's mom and her stepfather, Byron, have been living with us since Harley was born. We've had a multi-generational household. There's me and Jen, there's our daughter Harley, there's Byron and Gail, we all live together. And it's not like fucking Everybody Loves Raymond, where I'm like, I hate these cocksuckers. I get along wonderfully with them. They're the greatest people on the planet. In fact, I'll be honest with you, she's not here, so I'll tell you, I like her parents more than I like my wife, Honestly, if my wife was ever like, we're getting divorced, I'd be like, you take the kid, I'm taking your parents. So we get along very, very well, her and I, her parents and I. And her parents have lived with us since the kid has been born. And that wasn't really ever in the plan or in the cards. And Jennifer, like in high school, her parents got divorced, and at one point she had fallen out with her mom, so she went to live with her dad, and after that, she went off to college. So at that point, by age 16, Gail was done sharing a roof with her daughter. So enter me, and I impregnate her daughter and shit, and they wind up coming to live with us. And so they've spent, at that point, Harley was about 5, they'd spent about 6 years with us in total. So she writes her this passage where she says, the greatest gift that I think you've ever given me and I'll ever get from you is the fact that I've had a second bite at the apple at being your mother. Like when you left, at age 16 to go live with your dad, that was it for me. Like I was done being your mom because you were off on your own and then you went off to school. So, I'll always be your mother, but I didn't get to mother you, and I never thought I would get to mother you again. But, you being with Kevin and then Harley has created this opportunity where I get to mother you again. And Gail's lived with us for the last 10, 11 years. And it's a really beautiful sentiment where a parent, like, even though she's lived a life and, she knows her kids have to go off and live their lives and whatnot, she cherished all this time that she's had, aside from like being with her granddaughter Harley, but just to be with her own daughter, to be with her own kid. And that kind of makes sense. Like, I love my kid and I know she got to go out and live her own life, and she's doing cool things now, and she's really stepping, not away or being rebellious, but she's individualizing herself. Like I would force shit on her, like she's a writer because she's a really good writer and stuff. She could be a writer just like me, and she's got a writer's head and blah, blah, blah. And she can write, but that's not what her leaning is. Her leaning is music and stuff. And so as she goes towards that, you can see her not slipping away or something, but she's heading off on her path. We've had so much time with her, and we've got to do so much with her, but now she's going to start breaking out on her own. And, it makes you sad, but at the same time, you're like, go, man, be an individual. Start the journey of life. This is awesome. But to have her one day, for whatever good reason, like not like, oh, shit didn't work out, so I need to live with you and mom again, but for her to come back into our lives and be able to live with us again, that would be a really cool thing, man, to be able to spend time with your kid as an adult, as opposed to just the weird relationship of I'm a parent, you're the kid. One of my favorite things about hanging out with my mother now is that she's my mother and she'll always be my mother, but I can talk to her just the way I talk to my friends. And when I was younger, I couldn't curse in front of her or anything like that. And my mother does not swear. She gets real embarrassed when I curse. She used to, not so much anymore. But she'd always be like, it reflects so poorly on me. People are going to think I taught you those words. I was like, words like cocksucker, mother? But she's grown accustomed to it. She's like, that's what you do now. That's how you talk. I get it. And every once in a while, she'll curse a little bit. She'll be like, and these people, they're just shit. I'm like, woo, mom, how awesome. But it's nice to be able to have that kind of adult relationship with her too, man. So hopefully I'll get to have it with my own kid in the future. It'd be kind of a neat thing. Anyway, we've talked about family too much, man. Let's talk about why we're here, which is this guy. At a certain point in every evening at Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, we ask a very, very important question. As I said before, whole show's intervention podcast. We sit down and talk with Muse as a way to check in with them, keep them off the heroin, OxyContin stuff that kind of robbed them of so much time. So at this point, at every episode, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, we ask the question, how long you been clean and sober?
785 days today. Thank you.
Now that's 2 years and change at this point, right?
Yeah.
Vast difference, I would imagine. Normally at this point in the show, I'm always like, tell a cautionary tale. Tell people a story about drug abuse that will keep them away from drugs or blah, blah, blah. But since we're at Fan Expo, I'm going to tell a different story. I'm going to tell a story rather than have you do it. The only thing, I hated Jason's drug problems for years. It's the sickness and whatnot, but it's also an inconvenience for everyone else, and sometimes just downright hell on earth. So I never enjoyed it, never agreed with it, was always like, please put it down. But there was one aspect, adorable, but it will always remind me of some of my favorite memories of the last 20 years. When Muse was getting off heroin, he had to go to a methadone clinic. And a methadone clinic, they give you what is a little cup of liquid, and you shoot the liquid back, and that kind of takes care of the urges, I guess, that heroin it takes care of the heroin urge. It's not quite the same as heroin at all, but it kind of takes care, it's a substitute, and they use it to wean you off heroin. So as he was living with me pre-Dogma, we were getting ready. I was like, you got to live with me. I'm going to get you clean and stuff because we're going to make this movie with real actors this time and shit. So you got to put a lot into it and whatnot. So he was living with me, and then we would start this process of every morning he would knock on my door, wake me up, and he would be like, I need my medicine. And so I'd be like, okay, let's get up. I'd wake up, put on some clothes. We'd get in the car, and we would drive to Asbury Park, which was about maybe 10 miles from where we were in Red Bank, maybe 12 or something. So we go to Asbury Park, and there's a methadone clinic. There's a line of people standing out in front of it, a lot of people dealing with heroin issues themselves. Not a lot of OxyContin in those days. It hadn't really gotten that big in Jersey at that point. So you'd see the people lined up, we'd pull up, and Muse would get out of the car and go get online and wait for the clinic door to open, and boom, they'd go in and get a shot. And it was always kind of weird because we'd pull up and I'd be behind the wheel and he'd get out of the car, and you'd see people in line and stuff, and they would basically be looking around because it's early in the morning and shit, and they're still waking up and they can't wait to get their methadone fix. And they'd look at me in the car, and then they would look at him getting out of the car, and then they'd look back at me in the car, and then they'd look at him getting in line, they'd be like, holy shit, Jay and Silent Bob have a real problem. So he'd go in, he'd do his shot of methadone, he'd come out, and this is what I was talking about. One of my favorite aspects, the only time that I was ever like, you know what, his drug addiction's not bad, is because we had just taken over the secret stash at this point. It was like late 90s, or late 96, early 97, or 97-ish. We, at that point, Star Wars had released, started re-releasing, the Kenners started doing 12-inch Star Wars figures again, the dolls, and one of the Chase figures was a Greedo doll. Couldn't find it any place. They packed one per case. The rest in the case were Luke Skywalker's, Han Solo's and shit. But Greedo was one per case. So Walter, my friend Walter Flanagan from, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Comic Book Man. He'd been running that store, The Secret Stash, forever, man, and is going even back to this point. And so he'd be like, you know what we could use, man, if you guys are ever out on the road, if you find a Greedo doll, pick up a Greedo doll, man, because they go for like, we could sell it for $40 or something. It's a wall doll. It can go up and be upsell it because the price could go up. So few of them and shit. And this kid immediately dials into that. He's like, Greedos, huh? You need some Greedos? I think I can handle this. I can get you some Greedos. And that became the raison d'etre of our life for the next month, 2 months and shit. We would wake up, go to the methadone clinic, he'd get his fix on. We would leave the methadone clinic, go to Dunkin' Donuts, which is kind of like Tim Hortons, and he would order a manager's special, which is essentially some icing with some sprinkles on it. He'd get 2 of those. I don't know what was so special about it. He'd get 2 of those and shit, get back in the car, be like, let's go to Toys R Us. And then we would go to Toys R Us and wait in the parking lot for 2 hours for Toys R Us to open. As soon as we get in, dash down the toy aisle and find somebody who worked there and be like, hey man, do you have any unopened cases of 12-inch Star Wars figures? We need the Greedo dolls. And so he'd collect as many Greedo dolls as he could, because people that worked there would be like, aren't you that guy from the movie? He's like, yes, Greedo dolls. He'd pack them all together and shit, bring them to the stash and like lay them out for Walter, you know? So every day we'd come home with like a couple, 3 to 4 Greedo dolls, because we ran out of like the Toys R Us that was near us. We kept going to, like, we can't help you anymore. We started going to other Toys R Us's, started like driving around the state together, all after he got the methadone in him. And at the time, it was meant for stability. The whole idea of the Greedo doll represented sobriety. So you didn't want to like let him be bored and relapse, and so you had to think of something to do, and it became about hunting for Greedo dolls. And it managed to help you kind of, not stay clean, but start getting clean, man, by bringing him to the store. But at a certain point, Walter was just like, dude, I've got 56 Greedos. You know, fucking, and they all shoot first. Stop bringing them to me, man. And then, thankfully, we were heading into Dogma, so we didn't have to keep going on the Greedo hunt and stuff. We went off to shoot Dogma, and then the rest is kind of, in terms of his addiction history, he falls off the wagon while we're making Dogma. We don't quite find out about it until, I don't know, a couple years later or something. But years down the road after this, man, there was another time of your times, you know, every once in a while, Jason falls off the wagon, tries to get clean again. One of those times, man, it was so adorable and so endearing, but you were trying to prove to me that, like, you were real. You know, when you deal with someone with addiction issues, they're not always being honest with you. Sometimes it's the fucking addiction talking and shit. So you'd be like, you know, man, do you want to get clean? You know, do you feel it this time? Do you want me to send you to rehab and shit like that? And you'd sometimes get an honest answer out of them, sometimes you wouldn't, you know, and stuff. So I knew I was there was one time, it was right before you cleaned up for good, 8 years ago, and then fell off the wagon, so I guess it wasn't for good. But it was one of those times you cleaned up, and you were trying to show me you were serious. And Jason doesn't get very emotional, but it was one of the times that he actually rolled a tear, because I was like, you know what, dude, you've burned me too many times. Like, I don't buy it anymore. I don't fucking buy that you have any interest in getting clean and shit. I've heard you say things to the contrary. He once said, like, if I could get a warehouse full of OxyContins, I would never think about being clean. The only reason I think about being clean is... Okay. Let's open it up to you guys, man. Let's hear from you. We've babbled enough, and we'll open it up to you guys and hear some Q&A. I don't know where the mics are, and the lights. It's pretty dim in here, so don't trip on your way.
Oh, we have
Is it meant to be theirs? You want to run down there and just here's a guy. Hey,
Oh, here you
here's
go.
what's happening
Look
now,
at
and the
that.
lights are coming up. Oh shit's happening.
I like this. This is sexy.
All right, so we'll rock a little Q&A for a little bit, try to get to a bunch of questions, and then we'll wrap up with a little game of Let Us Fuck, if that's cool with y'all.
Yeah.
For those of you who are like, let us fuck, what is that? You don't have to if you don't want to, but you want to stick around to watch it, it's kind of fun. Okay, man, here we go. First up, man, got a question for me or Mr. Jason Mewes.
Hey guys,
Hey.
I'm Rob.
How are you, Rob?
I'm doing good, man. Big fan. I'm a little nervous.
Thanks.
I actually don't have one. I just want to say a big thank you to you, Kevin, because this summer I shot my first film, and I wouldn't do it if in high school I didn't buy the Clerks 10 and watch that Snowball.
Right
Fight.
on, man, right on. Tell him, thank you. And that's honestly one of the best parts of this job. If you can stick around long enough, you got some longevity on your side, because that's the hardest thing to find in this business is longevity. Money's easy, and
well.
respect comes and goes, but longevity is something you got to dig in deep for and go along for the ride. When you get a certain amount of longevity on your side, at least for me, I don't know about anybody else, one of my favorite things to do is to just be like, here, take this information and do it for yourself. Because I always felt a little selfish or a little guilty that my job is so incredibly easy, and I got very lucky with our first film, got picked up and shit. And, you know, it's not rocket science. Like, I've always tried to pull back the curtain and be like, hey, this is how it works, and you could do it too. That's my favorite part of the job, is telling people you can do it too. And it's not altruistic. It's not like, I do that because I'm a good person. I do it because I'm fucking smart. When you encourage other artists to investigate themselves, record a podcast, shoot a movie as you did, to pursue their art, you're gonna benefit, man. You're gonna see some cool art. And some people will be like, yeah, we'll see a lot of crappy art too. Doesn't matter, man. Eventually you'll get to, it's art in general, which is just good. Good or bad, art is fucking cool. So to be able to kind of be in a position where you can encourage people and not have people go like, oh yeah, well fucking how do you know? Like when you have time on your side, and when you come from where I came from, which is not to the manor born, where it's like, hey man, I was fucking lower middle class family, and I made a flick and boom, everything fucking changed because I followed my dreams. You know, you can silence the critics who will necessarily want to shut you down. I know some people don't want to hear hope. Some people don't want to hear you can do it too, because that means, oh shit, I'm not doing it. So rather than be like, hey, I'll go do it, they'll just be like, oh, well, it worked for you. It won't work for me or any of these people. And I say, that's horseshit. You're looking at two of the biggest dickheads on the planet, man. Least talented people I've ever known and shit. And still, we've been working for nearly 20 years doing what we do. And a lot of that has to do with just following your heart, following your art, and following your heart. And if you play the game straight, man, even though you may not make like $100 million, if they feel that you're playing it real, like you're not just in it for the money and shit, that you're like, no, this is real for me, that translates and people will stick around. And then you get to do stuff like, hey man, make that Clerks 10 doc and be like, you go out and do it. If you've never seen the documentary he's talking about,
It's amazing.
I didn't even make it. Phil Benson directed it. He put it together. He worked with Zach and Joey, and naturally I was involved, but Phil was the one that put that the doc together. If you watch it, it's such a powerful document for change that you can't not feel like you can make a movie too at the end of it. It's designed to it shows you like a cast of people with no nothing especially talented going on for them, but how everything coalesced and fucking things worked out. And I swear to you, when you watch it, like even when I watch it, I go like, man, the whole time I'm watching the doc, I'm like, I hope things work out for these kids. And I know it does and shit. And by the time I get to the end of the doc, it makes me want to make a movie again. So if you've never seen it, peep it out, man. It's called The Snowball Effect. A wonderful documentary. And it made this dude want to make a movie. Tell him what your movie's called, man.
It's called Soulmates, The Hat. It's about what the ghosts do when no one's around. They're like trapped in a house and it's like hanging
So it's
around.
about what ghosts do when no one's around?
Pretty much.
Hopefully it's not shit like I fucking make them
Well, it's two guys. and a
jerk
girl.
off into the sink, into the blue shit.
It is very vulgar.
Is it vulgar?
Yeah.
Sexy ghosts?
Yeah. It's hot
Oh, I
girl.
like it, man.
Two guys and one chick.
2 guys and 1 chick?
Yeah, so
A ghost 3-way?
maybe.
Awesome. All right, they could just permeate one another. Very sweet. Glad to hear, man.
Thank
Congrats.
you, man. Thank you. All the best, man.
Now it's just the one line, right? Just okay. Right on, man. You're next. What's your name?
My name is also Rob, but his story might explain why all my tables are falling the fuck over all the time. So, first of all, I gotta say, I'm speaking to Kevin fucking Smith.
And first off, I have to say, big deal.
Well,
Anybody could do that, man.
I'll tell you
Anybody.
why it's a big deal. Last Tuesday, I lost my father, and your story and your whole night, it's been the best laugh I've had in a week.
Thank you.
So
sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I didn't need this poor bastard having to follow that up, so I got a question. With your relationship in comic books, you've done the Batman and the Green Lanterns and all that, and of course it's been amazing, but with the type of humor that you have and the relationship that you have with Stan Lee, have you ever considered like a one-off or anything of a limited series Deadpool? Because I think you do really well with that.
I get it. It's so. This is gonna be. I'm gonna lose it. First off, I'm sorry about your dad, man.
Well, thank you.
It sucks. I know the feeling.
We're going to get shit-faced after,
But stop talking. It's my turn.
And I have a microphone, so you will listen to every word I have to say.
Absolutely, and also you're gonna get the sympathy vote, so I'll defer to you constantly. I feel so bad. I'm like, you come up and do the show
And
with
I'm
him.
single and I'm staying in a nice hotel.
Good to know. Okay, this is. I'm gonna lose a bit of geek credential by saying this, but here goes. I've never read a Deadpool comic. I know, and this is sad because people come up to me go, oh my God, you would be the perfect person to write Deadpool. And I go, Deadpool must love like ass fucking jokes or
Oh,
something.
hell yeah.
And Star Wars. So
yeah.
one day I will get around to actually reading some Deadpool, but
you seriously
until
have
then, again,
Yeah.
yours is not the first time I've heard it. People say like, me and that character would coalesce well. So I should look into it. I just haven't had the time.
All right then. It's because you're listening to this guy's bullshit, man. Get on it.
I know, right? I get lost in his stories. That's why.
Snoochie boochie, dude.
Snooch.
Dude lost his father, man. That's all you can give him is a snooch.
The snooch means many things, which is good. And it's a good thing. I just gave him like a sorry. I feel it.
Why don't you give him one of those butt massages?
Right? You might.
What kind of like how tight could you be with a fan? Like a fan was, if he was like, look, I lost my dad, and the only thing that's gonna make me feel better is if you jerk me off. Because I think I might go the distance for that fan. I love them so much that like I get to the point where they're like, I understand grief and shit like that, so I could be like, all right, we'll make it fast.
I would probably do something else. I don't know about jerking, only because I know, like, when I lost my mother, the last thing I was thinking is some guy jerk me off would make me feel better, even a girl. So, like, right.
Well, that's just
it's only
weird.
been- I'm saying I would have, if he was like, hey, man, I need you to hang out with me for the next night and morning and just talk to me about what's going on with my head. And maybe, like, if you walk around naked, it'll make me feel a little bit better. I do that. But with him coming then I just feel like I'm doing something bad. I feel like then someone like my mother, his father, everyone were looking down and going, "What are you doing? Why are you touching that man's penis? My son's penis."
Or maybe they're all looking down and they were behind all the machinations that put you together. They're like, let's see if they jerk each other off.
Dutch rudder.
All right.
He said he'd settle for a double Dutch rudder.
I know. See, I would do that.
Hold them to it, man. And when I say hold them to it, I mean hold them. Yes, welcome. What's your name and what do you want to say?
My name's Adam,
Hey, man.
and first of all, I've tried to find a ticket forever, and luckily I got the scalp one today. So,
It wasn't hard to get tickets, was it?
actually it was sold out when I tried.
Say it again.
It was sold out.
Oh, it's all sold out.
I know, that's adorable to us. Even though you're a guy, that could get you laid by one of us.
Out.
Yeah, oh, and they lean on the oot. Anyway, how are you, man?
I'm good, thanks. I'm here for my girlfriend just to show her how much I love her, that I'm sitting in an uncomfortable chair for 2 hours just to say,
Got what I need. When you say he's just nuts.
I want you to tell her that she owes me at least a little bum love or something.
Oh. I understand. This is all about getting you some anal. I can help. You got the camera running?
I do.
What's her name?
Liz.
Liz?
Yeah.
Liz, what's your name?
Adam.
Adam. Liz, this is Kevin Smith, my good friend Jason Mewes.
Hello, Liz.
Liz, in every healthy adult relationship, anal is not expected but preferred. However, I will say this. First, he's got to give you his ass.
Yeah.
Get him with some of that finger action and then see how into it he is. Go get him, Liz.
Thank you.
Can I get you laid in some way? Or?
Even you don't have that kind of power.
A challenge! Come on up here, man. Fucking, I bet you I can get you laid. Seriously, come over here. Come to the front of the stage.
Come on.
Say hi to Toronto.
Hello.
Now, ladies or gentlemen, got to be somebody out there. Whatever happens at Fan Expo stays at Fan Expo. You're not that desperate yet? He wants to take the dudes off the table for now. For now. But if no ladies step up, dudes back on the table. In any event, this dude's looking for some love tonight, so if you see him in the crowd, you're not at all? Oh. He's backpedaling.
So wait,
Whatever.
you're saying if someone came up here right now, a girl and was like, "I'll suck your cock in the fucking restroom right now," what would you say? Oh yeah, the show's over.
Go back to the mic, dude. Go back, or give him your mic. Go back. You go back to the mic now. I just want everyone to get a look, just in case, because every once in a while, you can get laid at a Kevin Smith show, man. The good news is we do enough sexy talk where by the end of the night, some people are like, "I'm hot and bothered."
And you do a lot. You seem to have a full plate all the time. But one thing I am curious about and wanting an update for is how Hit Somebody is coming along. Is there a part for Jason Mewes in that movie as well?
Hit Somebody is my hockey movie that I've been working on for quite some time. At one point, it was 2 hockey movies, and now it's back to 1 hockey movie, and that's where the time has gone for the last few months. I've been trying to hammer it into something that is close to 150 pages, which is still 30 pages longer than the average script, but I'm trying to get as much story as I can to it. I've got a lot that I want to tell, and that's why I was moving to 2 movies, but makes sense to just try for one, you know, especially if it's gonna be my last flick. I should be able to say what I need to say in one flick. I've learned, you know, over the last 20 years how to make a movie. I've learned how to keep them tight, you know. I love to edit, I love to cut right to the bone and stuff. So in the writing process, I'm trying to be as tight as possible, but the story is just a beast, so I'm trying to fit it into 150. And along the way, other things come up, like, you know, over the summer we had the spoilers job going on, so while I was doing that, hit somebody went over here to the left. But now that spoilers is done, hit somebody who's back on the front burner, and it's me trying to figure out how to get everything I want to do into 150 pages, which again is far too fucking long. But I figure I could at least shoot it all and figure out later on what could go. So it's coming. I mean, God willing, we'll be shooting next year, early next year. This is kind of what we're hoping for.
That's great.
But and honestly, I feel like if I can do it the way that I'm talking about doing it and the way I dream about doing it when I kind of close my eyes or when I sit there writing, I honestly feel like they might, it's such a Valentine to Canada that I feel like they might make me PM without ever having to run for it.
It's not that hard.
It's so, and that's a dream of mine. That's what I would really like. I dream about. I mean, it's not even a dream. I know I'll make it a reality one day, but it's a whimsy of mine that I will make real. I was born on the continent of North America, but I was born in New Jersey. But I've spent so much time up here, and I have such a relationship with Canada. I'm such a Canada-phile and whatnot. And I am a citizen of North America. But it seems weird to be a citizen of North America, but then hit the roof and be like, well, I can't go up there unless, you know, I have this pass that says I'm coming up here for business or whatever. I can only stay a certain amount of time. I whimsy all the time about being half Canadian. It's not impossible. I've met people who have become dual citizens and whatnot. Mosier was lucky. He was born a dual citizen. But I met a dude who was a camera operator on Batman Begins. He shot the Reaper pilot with us. Great guy. But he was from Los Angeles, and then he actually moved up to Vancouver, and he took the test and became a citizen. And I was like, what's that all about? And he was just like, I'm a huge hockey fan. I work up here. Why not fucking live up here? And I was like, oh my God, that logic would work for me as well. So ever since then, I've always thought about, like, I'm one day, man, when I got enough time, you know, because that's the thing. I spin a lot of plates, and there's always something going on. And unfortunately, things move to the front and to the back based on whatever's happening at that moment. But one of the things I always want to accomplish for myself is I want to become a Canadian citizen. I don't want to abandon America, but I want to be a dual citizen, and it drives my wife nuts because she's like, why? And I was like, why not? You know, it's like, if we're all in the same landmass, I think it'd be cool to be able to just be like, I'm going up north and not have to be like, I'm going to a different country altogether. Like, I don't know, I feel so close to the people, and I feel so close to everything about Canada. I feel like, why not have a piece of that as well? Why not? I can do both. I can straddle, you know, the line between both the countries. So it's something that I think about doing, and I'll get to one day. I'm always hoping that instead somebody will just be like, here's an honorary citizenship, welcome. But they're probably gonna make me work for it. The dude who became a citizen that I was talking about, he took the test and shit. I was like, how was the test? He was like, it wasn't that bad. He's like, you had to know a lot of Canadian history. And I started hitting him with all the Canadian history I knew, and he was like, I was just talking about shit like who the PM is. Because I was hitting with shit like, oh, the War of 1812, bitch, Canada wins against America and shit like that. But he said they didn't ask about shit like that. So apparently you don't have to go in and be jingoistic, like, fucking Canada rules!
We don't like to toot our own horn or anything.
I'm sorry, say again?
We don't like to toot our own horn or anything.
Right, I know. That's the only part of me that's not very Canadian. I do like to toot my own horn. But that's one of those things that I know I'm going to accomplish. I don't call it a dream, because a dream is one of those things you're like, oh, where'd that come from? But I know it's a conscious effort of mine. I want to be able to be half and half. I want to be half American, half Canadian. I want to be able to go freely back and forth across the border and shit like that. A little dopey little whimsy of mine, but I'll make it happen. You know, that's what what I do. I've spent the last 2 or 3 years taking all the dopey whimsies, just the things that you think about and go like, wouldn't it be great if I did that? And then usually you let them go and shit. And sometimes with good common sense. But a lot of things, you know, we're brilliant little content generators, all of us. We have millions of good ideas every day, collectively. But we never take them forward because we're always so like, somebody else has probably done that already. Or, fucking, I couldn't, who am I to think I could do that sort of thing? Me, man, I've been smoking so much weed the last few years that I just trample that kind of thing. Any sort of doubt, anytime I'm whimsying about something, and then there's that moment where I'm like, yeah, that won't work. Then I'm just like, worth a fucking shot, let's try, you know, and fucking I tend to move forward. So I know I'm gonna be, one day I'm gonna have it so in my head where I'm like, I gotta become Canadian, that I'm gonna go and take the test and announce, ladies and gentlemen, I am now a citizen of North fucking America, woo, woo. So that's a little dopey dream of mine.
Well, we'd love to have you.
That sounded convincing. You're like, well, we'd love to have you. Thank you, sir, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good talking to you. Hey man, what's up?
Hey Kevin, hey Jason, how you doing? My name is Jeff, and on Wednesday night, my girlfriend and I saw a preview of a film called For a Good Time Call.
Oh, right on, yeah. How was it? They played it up here as a preview?
Yeah, preview. And lo and behold, we saw a cameo of Kevin Smith jerking it off to the sex call girls.
Yeah.
Everyone should see it, I highly recommend it. 2 questions. A, how'd you get involved? And when you were doing that scene, were you thinking of your wife or Mr. Muse here? Now, be
Whenever I
honest.
masturbate, I always think about Mr. Muse.
Yes.
Because he's exciting. Jennifer, I know I could fuck. Him, still iffy. How did I get involved in the flick? Seth's lady is one of the writers on the flick, Seth Rogen. And she emailed me, and she was just like, hey, we're doing this flick, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to pop in and do a taxi cab driver who's, calling into the phone sex service? Right. So I was absolutely, and went in. It took all of like 3 hours and shit. But it was something that I did and completely forgot about. And then it went up to Sundance this year. And then all of a sudden, this is a true fucking story, man. But it was so strange. You know, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. And sometimes, you know, when I'm not on Twitter, I'm doing other important things like masturbating. So there's one particular night, it was during the Sundance Film Festival, and my wife was sleeping. I said, fuck it, I'm gonna tug one out. Tugged one out and shit, finished up, went to Twitter, opened it up, and the first tweet I saw said, I just watched you jerk off. I gotta be honest with you, dude. I got so scared, so terrified. I literally went and woke up my wife. And I was just like, are you awake? Are you awake? And she's like, what's the matter? I was like, just sit with me. I fucking looked at because I was in my library and shit, my curtains were closed, and the only living thing in the near vicinity was my dog Mulder. So immediately after I read that tweet, I'm like, you son of a bitch. But I don't know, it turned out it was in reference to the movie, because then I saw another one and shit. There were a few that were just like, you were jerking off, was hysterical. And I was like, what the hell? There are cameras. But it turned out it was for the movie. But yeah, I hear the movie's really, really funny. I haven't gotten to see it yet.
Yeah, go see it, and everyone else, go see it. I highly recommend it. All right. Thank you.
How's it going, guys? Good
How
to see
are you? Good to
doing
see you,
good,
man.
doing good. Question I have for you, how do you feel about Jay and Silent Bob cosplayers? I've noticed there have not been a lot here this weekend.
Jay and Bob cosplayers?
Cosplayers, yep.
There's a few. There's the 2 chicks
Yeah, 2
over there.
yeah, I know.
You're awesome. I've never seen anyone carry the monkey around. That's a sweet variation.
Had to bring Suzanne's, right?
I honestly, I don't see as many Jay and Silent Bobs, but I see a lot of Silent Bobs at various comic book conventions. And usually that has everything to do with, it's an easy outfit. Like, you don't really have to try that hard. You just have to not shave, eat a lot of Twinkies, and pretty much, and wear a long coat, and you're pretty much there. So I'm an easy character to do. He's a little harder to pull off unless you find the right ensemble, which you did. Well done.
Perfect,
man.
yeah.
Really nice.
It is the actual. Where'd you get that, motherfuckers? That's the actual costume,
Yep,
cuz.
Berserker t-shirt, got online. Wig.
I like it,
Yeah,
I like it.
Costume shop. Rest, the shirt, me and my hetero life mate Bob. I have a Bob too. He couldn't be here today, unfortunately.
Your Silent Bob's not with you?
No, he's not.
I'm gonna roll a tear. Is that weird for you to see somebody that's kind of mirror version of you, younger though?
And with the monkey? No, it's pretty sweet.
What if your wife was like, I saw this really attractive guy in the crowd. We should bring him home and have a three-way. What if your wife was like,
She
I want to
didn't
have a
tell me, I just
three-way?
opened the door and he was like, get out, motherfucker. I'm like, no. And
You're
all
like, what are you doing? He's like, cosplaying.
You might need a double to stand in one night. You know, you gotta go off somewhere. You know, send in your doppelganger. You know.
I like him.
Excellent, guys. Well, no, I almost didn't come to this today because
Why?
Because my Bob couldn't be here, and I'm like, oh, what's the like? I almost didn't dress up today just because he couldn't be here, and I'm like, no, this was part of my Friday plan. I was gonna come as Jay, put on the costume, and you know what?
Oh, look, here he comes. He showed you. Dun, 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 dun.
This is just an
Noise,
adorable...
noise,
Wait,
noise.
do you know this guy or no? This is not your friend?
No,
This is like the
he's
most romantic meet cute story ever.
Come on, you tubby bitch. Take Suzanne's hand. Go ahead.
If you
like
guys
it.
wind up fucking tonight, perfect.
Oh,
Yes. Wait, I know there's a Bluntman and Chronic over there. You guys can go fucking hang with,
oh,
right?
Well
Do it,
done.
bro. Yeah, man. Slip him your room keys. I like it.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Very, very good. It's a little weird because I just watched me walk that way.
So I'm a really big fan of the Batman series. Shut up. Especially Cacophony. So, one question: Tim Burton is a blank. I would like either of you to fill that one in.
Tim Burton is. I'll go. Tim Burton is a genius. I think he is. Honestly, like. It's easier, the longevity, he's got longevity on his side. He's been around even longer than me. And, not everything you do is going to be fucking Batman or Beetlejuice. Sometimes, you make the fucking vampire movie that came out this summer, Dark Shadows. But other than that, it's like that dude has a signature style. You can't point to many filmmakers and say a name and have somebody's head immediately filled with what that work looks like. I mean, it's tough to find people that know directors' names at all, let alone can kind of figure out what their style is. He is a signature brand, and I've had my issues with him and stuff, and like anybody else, I could be catty and be like, oh, I hated this movie, or blah, blah, blah. But Tim Burton is hands down a genius, and also a dude who's brought a style to filmmaking that is so very much his own. Nobody else tries to do Tim Burton. Only Tim Burton does Tim Burton. And the moment you see a Tim Burton movie pop up on screen, whether they don't have credits on it or anything, nobody says a word. As soon as the first image comes up, you instantly go like, this is a Tim Burton thing. And that's like what every artist strives for. Some artists maybe want to disappear into the work and whatnot, but to have work that's so strong that even by like the opening second of it, people can identify, that's enviable as fuck. So in that way, Tim Burton is definitely a genius. I've had a few things to say about him in the past and jokes and shit, but 1989's Batman was like a fucking religious experience for all of us who were alive at that point. Like, people think that like there's the Dark Knight Rises and even the Dark Knight before it was like, oh man, that was huge. Batman's never been bigger. Bullshit. If you look at tickets sold, 1989, Tim Burton's Batman has sold more tickets than The Dark Knight Rises or The Dark Knight. Didn't make as much money because the tickets, cost more now than they did then. But it was a massive fucking phenomenon. And it was the first time we actually got to see Batman portrayed in a kind of somewhat serious light. It certainly wasn't the campy version from TV. It was dark and brooding and shit. So, I can point to Dark Shadows and be like, ugh, or other shit he's done and make fun of it. But honestly, that dude gave us the Batman that we have now. You don't get to the Chris Nolan Batman unless you get to the Tim Burton Batman first. He was the guy who was like, no, it could work if you just do it dark. So as much as I'm like, Tim Burton, what a jackass, You got to give him credit, man. Like he did big things for this community and continues to kind of do so. And more importantly, he stayed true to who he is. You know, you could sit there and be like, some of his stuff's better than others. You could say that about everybody. People say about me all the time, usually to my face, and I cry. But his stuff, whether you like it or not, is consistently Tim Burton-esque, man. That's an achievement, accomplishment. But anyway, that's the Tim Burton thing. What was the next one?
Can I just shake your hand?
Yeah, come on up, man. Absolutely. If you can make it up here. Well done, sir. All right, you. What's your name? What do you want to say?
Hi, my name's Noah.
What is that all about?
Yeah, what was that all about?
Do it again. Do it again.
Hi, my name's Noah.
How are you? You heard him. Let me see your tits, boy.
You sound just like my friends. Okay, I just like to say, for one, you're like my Batman. Like, you are like the biggest Batman fan.
Oh, I thought you were like, you're like the biggest Batman ever.
No.
I was like, an airline said that about me once. Once.
No, like the fact that you love Batman so much, that's how much like that you're like my Batman.
Oh, get out of
Yeah.
here. Well, but here, I'm not nearly as cool as Batman. Batman is always right and gets shit right and always wins, and I'm the other guy. But I appreciate the sentiment.
And I just like to ask the question. It's kind of got a story to it. Since I was 5 years old, I always wanted to make movies, and that kind of dream kind of died recently. I saw Clerks last year, and I never heard of you or anything. I saw Clerks on a plane to Cuba, and I
gotta go back a second. You saw Clerks on a plane. Number one, that's weird. On a plane to Cuba?
Yeah. I went on a vacation last summer to Cuba, and I had it on my iPod, because my dad was like, "Oh, this Kevin."
Makes a lot more sense. I was like, holy shit, I gotta look into communism, man. Castro is just like, we love Clerks, very funny. When the cat shits on camera, very funny. Not even supposed to be here today, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, so my dad had been raving about Clerks and Kevin Smith. I'm like, who is this mysterious Kevin Smith? So I got...
I assure you, nobody has ever said, who is this mysterious Kevin Smith? You know, I pretty much put everything on Front Street. There's nothing mysterious about me, man. You hang out with me for like 10 minutes, I'll be like, I had my face up my wife's ass the other day. You ever do that, but not with my wife? Go ahead.
And I watched Clerks, and I don't know why, but it spoke to me somehow, and I loved it so much. I watched it 4 or 5 times that week in Cuba, and I've seen it about 27 times since, and it kind of rebuilt my my urge to write movies. And I recently wrote a script with a couple of my friends, and it's getting I'm going to promote it on the radio in a couple months, and I have you to thank for that.
That rocks, man. Well done.
And my question is, when you made Clerks, what was your inspiration, and like why did you want to make movies, and how did you get it out there?
Why did I do it? My inspiration, I saw Richard Linklater's film Slacker on my 21st birthday at the Angelica Film Center. It was August 2nd, 1991. We just passed the 20-year anniversary a year ago. I saw that movie and it changed me, because I was like, this counts as a movie? And not in an insulting dismiss, but just, I had seen, the only movies I was familiar with were studio movies, plots, 3-act structure, heroes, villains, broad stories, broad tales. Here was a story that wasn't about anything. You met a guy getting off a bus. Richard Linklater himself played the part. He starts talking to his cab driver, telling him about this dream he had. He gets out of the cab, walks past somebody, and we never see that person again, because we go with the next story, the person he passed. They lead us to somebody else. they lead us to somebody else. We never stay with anybody longer than 5 minutes, and basically it's just an examination of life in Austin on one particular day. And I'd never seen anything as simple and wonderful. You know, it's like every once in a while you hear a punk song that is so easy, 4 chords, it makes you believe that you too can make music. Richard Linklater's Slacker made me believe that I could be a filmmaker. I was like, I want to do this. This guy's telling stories in the middle of bumblefuck nowhere. Nobody knows where this is. It was Austin, Texas. I didn't know where it was. That's it. But thank God I didn't know that it was Austin, Texas, capital and arts community down there, because that would have intimidated me. I've been like, well, of course he could pull this movie off in Austin. He's surrounded by people that make movies, and it's like being in a major city. I didn't know that. I just saw this movie shot in Texas. Wasn't shot in Hollywood. Wasn't shot in New York. And it wasn't about anybody. It didn't have famous people in it. It wasn't plot oriented. You just spent 90 minutes wandering around this weird, wonderful little world with a bunch of different formats. He used 16 millimeter, Super 8. He used a Pixel Vision camera at one point that Fisher Price sold back in the day. It was an awakening. I watched this flick, and at the end of it, I said, that's what I want to do. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how he did it, but I'm gonna find out, and I want to do it too, because he made it look simple and fun. And also, he didn't have any of the elements that made it seem prohibitive to me. Like, oh, I gotta meet a famous person, or oh, I gotta have a bunch of money, or oh, that we gotta have a cool story to tell, or anything like that. Nothing. It was simple. It was a dude who was just like, I'm gonna make a movie, and he did it, presumably with his friends. So when I saw that flick, that inspired me. I said, I want to be a filmmaker. I remember driving home with my friend Vincent Pereira. And Vinny was the one who wanted to be a filmmaker, the first person, and he became a filmmaker. He made a wonderful movie called A Better Place. If you've never seen it, pick it up. But he was a dude, first person I ever met, who was like, I want to direct films. And I was like, what's that? He's like, I want to be the director. I was like, you want to be like Steven Spielberg? And he's like, well, I want to be the guy in charge of the movie. And I was like, you can't do that. Steven Spielberg is that guy. And he's like, well, I don't want to make his movies, but other people make movies too. And I was like, and you think you could just do this? And he's like, yeah, if I study enough, it's like when we're not in Hollywood, but I think so. I want to be a filmmaker. He's the first person I ever met who said he wanted to be a filmmaker. That was a strange notion to me, because we came from a world that had no access to that. We didn't come from an artsy community. Now when you say it, people go, oh, you could be a filmmaker, because you could literally pick up your smartphone, shoot a movie, cut it on your smartphone, load it up to YouTube and distribute it and exhibit it off your smartphone and shit. So it's a world where everybody has the technology now, where if they're not making a movie, boy, they can be making one in 5 fucking minutes. But back then, there wasn't a lot of that going on, man. So you had to sit there and be like, how do I accomplish this? Wasn't an internet to go looking up shit on. Had to go find weird film books and do stuff like that. A lot of independent study, and then eventually had to bring in the friends, because these cats, like me, were from a world that wasn't full of possibility. So you didn't sit there and go like, hey man, let's make a movie. And they were like, yeah, let's do that. My friends, Brian and Walter, if you've ever seen that show, Comic Book Men, they are literally the same people now that they were way back in the day. And I had to sit across from Brian and Walter, two of my best friends in the world I love to death, and I'd never be here without them. But they're not the most confident people in the world. They're not dreamers, and they're certainly not people that will be like, you can accomplish anything you put your head to. They're realists, man. They're just like, life's a bitch and then you die kind of people. And I always wanted to change that about my friends, because they were so funny and they gave me so much. Brian and Walter are two of the most incredible individuals I've ever met. Jason Mewes, same fucking thing. Originals, true originals in a sea of fucking sheep. And I always felt like that should be elevated, but they didn't feel the same way that they the same way I felt about them, they didn't feel about themselves, so they were kind of negative people. So when I had to sit down with Brian and Walter and explain to them, one day I'm gonna go to film school, there was a plan, suddenly happened, out of the blue. I saw Slacker, I said, I wanna go to film school. I looked up this program, there was a USC 3-week program going on in the summer of 1991. And so I said, I'm gonna do this, man. I'm gonna go to this program, learn what I can, come back, make a movie with Brian and Walter, Jason Mewes. So I sat down with Brian and Walter at a pizza parlor, Kevin Horvath's Pizza Parlor in Highlands, sat across from them, they're on the other side of the table from me, and we're eating, chit-chatting, bullshitting, as you do with friends, and then I'm waiting for a lull in the meal so I can fucking hit them with my news. And these guys are so tough that this is the equivalent of me going, I'm gay. It's just like, they're gonna receive the news in the same kind of way of where the fuck did this come from, and are you trying to suck my dick? So they'd immediately get kind of defensive. So I finally found a moment in the conversation where there was a lull, and I had a pizza in my mouth and I swallowed it. And I was like, I'm gonna go to film school up in Canada, and when I come back, we're all gonna make a movie together. And they stopped eating. It was almost like a scene out of a movie. There's both fucking froze looking up and shit. And the expression on their faces, you would have imagined what I had said instead was, I'm gonna drop under this table and you're gonna sword fight in my fucking mouth. And whoever wins is gonna win my heart, you know. And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, I saw this movie Slacker with Vinny, and they're like, Vinny, man, that Vinny kid, he's filling your head full of dreams, is he? I said, yeah, man, we saw this flick and it was kind of tight, and it made me think, like, we can make a movie. We're funny. Like, the thing I loved about Slacker was, to me, it was very witty and very clever, but like the audience was going nuts for it, as if it had reinvented comedy. And I was sitting in the midst of that audience. As much as I was laughing, I had a little bit of chip on my shoulder, man. I always talk about viewing Slacker with a mixture of awe and arrogance. Awe, because I'd never seen anything like it before, but arrogance, because my very next thought was, if they think this is funny, I could give them something funny. Like, I sat there going, like, this is funny, but I think me and my friends could be funnier than this. So I told them, I was like, I'm gonna go to film school in Vancouver, I'm gonna come home, we're gonna make this movie together. And they're like, what movie? I was like, I think I'm gonna set it at the convenience store. Because how many convenience store movies can you think of? And Walter was just like, yeah, that's the point, dude. He's like, well, who the fuck wants to watch a movie about a convenience store? I was like, I don't know. It's like, we all go to convenience stores like throughout the day. Like, it's a kind of, it's a place that touches everybody's lives. I haven't seen it done in flicks yet. I'm gonna try to go for it. So I'm gonna go up there and learn, come down and fucking teach you guys, and then boom, we'll go off and make the movie. So Slacker kind of lit that fire in me. It was seeing Slacker made me want to do that. And why I wanted to make Clerks in general, or why I felt the need at all, especially after seeing Slacker, was it was communication. It's all about communication. All of this shit, whether it's the movies, the podcasts, whether it's standing on stage and doing this, or doing cartoons, or spoilers, or comic book men, comic books themselves, writing those, whatever I'm doing, it's all about communication. It's all about throwing a message out into the void and waiting to hear back that I'm not so alone. That's where it all comes from. It comes from a place of like, is there anybody else out there who thinks like me? And I keep doing this shit because I keep hearing from people who are like, yes, I understand. Like, the delight of Jason Mewes to me when I was a kid, and when I say kid, I mean like when I was in my early 20s, I would be like, man, like, he'd be saying funny shit, and I'd be like, you should fucking be in a movie, man. Like, you're funny. I've never seen anyone like you, who thinks like you or talks like you, and the way you present shit. And then one day when I fell in love with movies, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put you in a fucking movie. And so you got to put him on display. And I was always worried, like, is anybody outside of Monmouth County, where we grew up in New Jersey, is anybody gonna find this dude funny at all? And no matter where we went with that movie, it wasn't Jersey, if it was the other side of the country, if it was international, if it was up here across the sea, he played for everybody. Everybody knows a Jason Mewes to some degree. That's the one compliment I've heard about Jay from the beginning. They're like, that guy Jay in the movie, I know a guy just like that. He's fucked up. He fucked a dog once. And I'm always like, mine did too. So being able to share that, something as simple as like, ladies and gentlemen, I know this fucked up guy, throwing him out there and having people respond back, that was always the key. You know, some people get into this because they want to make money, some people want pussy, or some people want cock, I guess. Money for me was never a motivating factor, because you could get money anywhere. Like, if I really want money, I can suck someone's dick and walk away with 20 bucks or something like that. So money's not like a hardcore problem. Like, if I'm willing, I'm not one of those people, I'm too proud to do these jobs, whatever. If I need money, I could do it. Money was never the motivating factor. The motivating factor was this. The idea of being able to be like, does anybody understand? And fucking this many people showing up and going like, we understand, Kev. This is a dream come true for me. Every time I fucking sit in front of a group this large, I'm like, this is all I ever wanted when I thought about being a filmmaker. So when you ask me what made me want to make Clerks, it was eventually to get to this. So thanks for letting me get here.
And can I also get a handshake and a picture?
Go ahead, well, I'm sorry?
Can I get a handshake and a picture?
Handshake? Yeah, come on up, man, go ahead. Meanwhile, we'll jump to you. And what were you trying to do?
I got 20 bucks.
Yeah, we are going to do that. All right, handshake right here, man. Nice to meet you. Nice kind words. You want to take a pic, come up on stage. Meantime, what's your name, man?
My name's Andrew. Oh, wow. I hate being short. I actually had a question.
I'll sit down. Does that help?
I still gotta look. I look up to you.
Don't.
Well, I was gonna say something about Deadpool in a comment like his. Personally, I agree with. I will gladly read my comment. I agree with him that you are the Batman to all of us. No matter, I saw Evening Harder. I cried the first time I saw the cover of that DVD. It made me laugh so much.
Thank you.
You came to the show in sandals. Anybody would come and see you just because it's you. You're a brand. You are the Batman.
Thanks, man.
All of us.
Thanks.
And believe it or not, I thought of that hiding behind him. The other thing was, first time I heard Silent Bob, I just learned the other acronym for Bob, battery operated boyfriend. And I started crying, laughing again, thinking, oh my God, his motor died.
Wow, so I can make you laugh without even trying. You make up your own material. I am actually kind of, you can liken me to a battery-operated boyfriend, because the chief device of a battery-operated boyfriend, a Bob, if you will, a silent Bob, is to do nothing but deliver pleasure. And that's kind of like what I think of as myself in life. Like, I'm here for nothing else but to be here to serve at your leisure and give you pleasure. I sound like the dude in fucking Trainspotting.
That's okay, I got tissues.
But that's like kind of, that's my big thing, so it makes me feel good when you say that.
The other thing was actually a question from Mr. Muse. I had a couple of old Wizard magazines, and they used to do I don't remember if they were fan or editor related, but they were who would you like to play, like Tony Stark, the Green Arrow, and stuff like that. I wasn't expecting you to answer something about Deadpool, but if Ryan Reynolds decided against doing the Deadpool movie, I can't think of anyone else more perfect. Would you do it?
Would I do it? Well, I mean, I don't think I could say no. If they just offered it, they're like, we're gonna let you do it. We want you to do it. Or they like, I have to go out for it. You're saying, I mean, otherwise, why would I not? Yeah, no, I would love to do it. I know the character, and I think he's awesome. My only fear, and I would say I would even hesitate on doing it, because I do like the character, and I would hate to play the character in the movie and do a horrible job, and people are like, you fucking ruined Deadpool! You suck! You know what I mean? So there's that fear, but yeah, of course, I would love to. You know, it's sort of a dream. It would be a dream to be able to play a comic book character, but at the same time, I would hate to play it. And because I love comic books and comic book movies and the characters and stuff, I would hate to do a bad job at it and then look at it and have other people comment and be like, "You suck. I'll never read another Deadpool comic again." So I almost would rather see someone else do it and be like, you know, be able to watch and be like, he was awesome, man, the way he did that. But yeah, there's no way I could turn it down if I got an offer. Is what I'm saying too. So.
If only Ben Affleck put that much thought into, hey man, what would you say if they asked you to play Daredevil?
Hey, Kev, I'm Mike. I do a podcast, and sometimes creativity is very hard because I suffer through depression. Just motivation, putting the content out there, and I just want to say thank you so much, because a lot of times when I hit that wall and my self-confidence is low, I'll listen to Fat Man on Batman, I'll listen to Babylon, I'll listen to you guys, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to put it out there. The weed helps with that too, and I think we can all agree to that. And the last 2 months, we've actually exceeded our bandwidth for people listening to the show.
Right on.
Thank you so much for being an inspiration.
Oh, that means the world to me, man. Thank you. Struggling with depression is a bitch. I've never struggled with definitely have days where, you know, it doesn't matter who you are in life, I think, whether what you've accomplished or whether you feel like you've accomplished enough or you've reached all your dreams and shit. You have moments that every day can't be a fucking win. You know, every day can't be a day where you're just like, man, it's fucking great. And it seems every once in a while that some of the down days string together so closely that it feels like life is a series of down endings, as Dante would say. But you always got to remember, man, that like don't get lost in the darkness. You know, do something. I'm not saying pop in one of our podcasts. It'll change your fucking life. But you always just have to change the moment. You know, if you're sitting there and you're fucking falling into that whole depression or whatever, do what he talked about, man. You just pop in fucking a podcast, go someplace else. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, man. But just the opportunity to kind of reprogram for a second to get you out of that zone. I find that happens to me quite a bit. The other night, I woke up at midnight and I was mad about something. I wanted to write 2 people very angry emails, and I was sitting there composing them in the bed and going like, when I get up, I'm gonna write this, and blah, blah, blah. And I sat there for 10 minutes and it was just bitterness, man. And then I stopped and I was like, you know what, this is not creative at all. Get up and go write something. Go create something. Don't write an email bitching about something. Create something. Write a story. Fucking try to write a joke. Answer some tweets. I'll be honest with you, as much as like people are like, you spend a lot of time on Twitter and shit, that's because it feels good. Twitter is like the cheapest drug on the planet, because 9 out of 10 times people are saying something positive. You know, every once in a while you get some asshole who's like, you still suck, Jersey girl boy, you know. You gotta give him credit because Jersey girl boy is a nice assortment of words to put together. But at the same time, most of it's all fucking positive and shit. And that too, like a dude coming up to the microphone and being like, you helped get me through depression. That means more than fucking somebody being like, here's a big fat check. Anybody can write you a fucking check, man. Not everybody will come up and be so honest with you as to be like, sometimes I fucking fall into a dark place, but you helped me pull out, so thanks. That means the world, man. Like, that's the kind of currency that really fucking spends in my world, puts a spring in my step. So thank you for sharing that.
All right.
How are you?
I'm good.
Look how tiny you are. You're pocket sized, man. You're like a Timbit.
Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to say that I love you guys. You guys are amazing.
Thanks.
Second of all, I begged the person behind me in line to let me in so I could ask you guys for a picture. So, I was wondering if I could get a picture.
Oh. So it's not a question as much as a request. Yeah, come on up, man. We'll take a picture. And this is the dude you cut in front of?
Yes, thank you.
I see why you let him cut, dude. Dude's sitting there going, I'm gonna get laid. Come on in, right between us, real quick. Quick Jay and Silent Bob sandwich. All right, well done. Get the fuck off the stage. Very nice, sir. Very nice of you to let that happen.
I'm Ryan.
Hey, what's up, Ryan?
And I just want to say thank you for all the free podcasts. Like, because, you know,
Thank you. Thanks for listening to them. They don't happen unless there's an audience.
Yeah,
so thank
well,
you.
I work 8-hour shifts at a golf course every day, so that really helps me get through it.
What do you do at the golf course?
Like cutting greens, doing bunkers, stuff like that.
Is it just like Caddyshack?
Kind of, I guess.
Are you a Cinderella boy?
No, not as a...
Do you even know what Caddyshack is?
Yeah, I've seen it, of course.
How old are you?
I'm 17.
17, you were cum when Caddyshack happened.
Yeah. So my question is, I really like the movie Red State.
Thank you.
I was just wondering why you chose to kill off the 3 main kids at the start.
As they said, spoilers. For me, that movie was all about doing something cool. Like, I love the movies I make, don't get me wrong, but there are movies that you watch and you're like, oh, that's so fucking cool. That's fucking badass, or something like that. Wicked. As we used to say when we were kids, that's fucking wicked. I always wanted to make a movie that was fucking wicked. I hadn't done that. I made some movies people liked a lot, like, oh, Clerks is a pisser, man. But I never made fucking, like, that's fucking wicked. Walter Flanagan was always my barometer of that's fucking wicked. And I would include shit or bring up shit or make a joke, hoping that it would get to the point where Walter would be like, that's fucking wicked. Like Dogma, the Golgothan shit demon, only exists in that movie. Some people are just like, hey man, why would you put that in? Like, a lot of the critics were like, in the middle of nowhere, there's a big poop monster in this fucking movie. It makes no sense whatsoever. And they're kind of right. The only reason it lives in that script is because I knew the description of how the Golgothan came to be, that he was born of like the shit of the criminals who were fucking crucified next to Jesus on Skull Hill. I knew that would make Walter Flanagan go, that's fucking wicked. So I gave him the script to Dogma when it was done and stuff, and I stayed within earshot while he was reading it for as long as I could, and then I had to leave. And then he called me when he was done, and I was like, hello? He's like, hey man, it's me. I was like, did you read it? And he goes, yeah. I said, what'd you think? He goes, that part about the shit monster, that's fucking wicked. I was like, right, you know. So I always wanted to make a whole movie as fucking wicked. For example, Near Dark is fucking wicked. Like when I was a kid, I saw Near Dark, I was like, this is fucking wicked. Every Quentin Tarantino movie is fucking wicked. You sit there and go like, holy shit, this is fucking wicked. I never made one of those flicks. I wanted to with Red State, and Red State was meant to be like, for me, my wicked flick. So I put in everything that would make me go, oh, that's fucking wicked, man. And thank you, right on, man. That was the idea. The idea is I was trying to make that movie that I saw on cable long before I wanted to be a filmmaker, or the movies I saw that other filmmakers do, because I don't necessarily want to make Kevin Smith movies. I don't dream about making Kevin Smith movies like a lot of people don't dream about watching them, but I don't dream about making Kevin Smith movies because I can make Kevin Smith movies in my sleep. Some critics will tell you I do that. But what I can't do is I can't make a Quentin Tarantino movie, man. I can't make a fucking Coen Brothers movie. And with Red State, that's what I wanted to try. Like rather than doing my own thing, I was like, I'm gonna try to make a movie like those cats, like the kind of movie that makes me go, oh, it's fucking wicked and shit. So that's Red State was me going for the Coen Brothers by way of Quentin Tarantino with a little soupçon of Kevin Smith on top of it, just to remind you that the same guy's involved, because that's part of the trick, right? Like for me, it's most enjoyable when people go, Red State's fucking cool, and it was made by that dickhead, you know, because they don't think you can do that kind of thing. So that was part of it too, to kind of come out both barrels blazing with a movie that looked good and was fucking wicked, for lack of a better description.
It was awesome.
Thank you. Well, no, it was fucking wicked.
Yeah, it was fucking wicked. That's right. And I was just wondering if you could sign my Leaf shirt.
You sign? Yeah, totally.
Sign my
man.
Leaf shirt.
Absolutely. Come on up. I'll tag it. All right, man. And then we'll take one more, and then we're gonna blow out of here, man. So make it. What we'll do is we'll take one more question. We'll play one round of Let Us Fuck. And then we're gonna get out of here, let you guys go off into the Friday night, get ready for your Saturday at Fan Expo Canada. In the meantime, sir, bring us home. Bring us home. What's your name?
My name is Dave.
How are you, Dave?
Doing great, thanks. I'd like to start by saying I have been a huge admirer of yours ever since I was working my first retail job at a convenience store called Shortstop. And I rented a copy of Clerks after my shift. I instantly felt a surreal connection between you because my name is David Hayes and the character is Dante Hicks.
So you got the DH thing going there.
Yeah.
You felt like you were being, like I was when I thought I was being watched after I jerked off.
Exactly the same. Over the next several years, I ended up working at 4 other convenience stores and spent a little over a year at a local A&W just in time for the release of Clerks 2. So before I ask my question, I'd like to make a request. Please get out of my head and stop co-opting my life into your movies. It freaks me the fuck out. My question involves one of our favorite Canadians out there, one Miss Alanis Morissette. More specifically, the opening track to her 1998 album supposed former infatuation junkie called The Front Row. Woo, that guy knows it. Being such a big fan of you both, it didn't take me long to recognize there are some references in the song that seem to point directly to you. Spending a great deal of time, I was also fairly certain she would have been on the set of Dogma right when she was writing the album, because it was like 6 months before in like 1998, and therefore spending a great deal of time with you. That to me seemed to cement the fact that you were indeed the inspiration for the song. Here are some examples of the lyrics in question. Come on. As though I were kissed by a god, Dogma reference. We said, let's name 30 good reasons why we shouldn't be together. I started saying things like, you smoke and you live in New Jersey. Plus the chorus of the song is as follows. I'm in the front row, the front row with popcorn. I get to see you close up. Clearly a nod to movies and perhaps that for the Who song. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, everyone.
This guy's like, do it, dude, do it.
Clearly a nod to movies and perhaps for the that someone was written for the song was in the industry, you know. I suppose my question is, have you ever heard the track, made the connection, and if you haven't, could you think of any experience that you shared in 1998 that would have inspired Alanis to write the song?
That is a question. I have been waiting for you for fucking 12 years. Just waiting for somebody to make that connection and be like, are you the guy in that song? Yes. I literally, now that song is about a bunch of people, but those verses that you referenced, that definitely has to do with me. And I remember the evening that we had that conversation. Her and I were on the phone. It was before I started even dating my wife. And so I haven't even met Jennifer yet. I haven't been interviewed by her.
About a year.
But yeah. It would come in a few months. But this was before I had the sit down with USA Today. I had, Jagged Little Pill came out. It's fucking massive and shit. The song, Isn't It Ironic? Like, naturally, when that came out, everyone was just like, did you hear there's a song on this chick's album, Isn't It Ironic? And I was like, right on. They're like, that's what Randall says in Clerks. And I was like, it's a fucking coincidence, I assure you. When I met Alanis Morissette, she's like, it's no coincidence. She's like, I was a huge fan of Clerks, man. I love Clerks. We watch it on the bus all the time when we tour and stuff. She'd watch Mallrats as well. I said, hey man, well, you might like this new flick I'm working on. It's called Chasing Amy, and I had a cut together, and she watched that as well. So it was, let me see, it was the tail end of my relationship with Joey Adams. We were just kind of falling on.
She's super hot.
What's that?
She's super hot. Way to go.
Way to go. Oh, on that one? Thank you. Well, for a fat guy, I was shooting high. So as the tail end of that relationship, she had decided that she didn't want to fuck Silent Bob anymore. She was moving on to Vince Vaughn. They wound up dating for a while. So I was kind of I was single at this point and whatnot. And my agent, Phil Raskin, had called me up and he was just like, do you know who Alanis Morissette is? And I was like, well, I mean, I know that album. That album's awesome. And me and Scott would play it all the time in the car, and we would love to sing about the would he go down on you in a theater? She go down on you in a theater part. Whenever that part came, we'd sing it real fucking loud, man. Because nobody sang about blowjobs before. You know, they did through code and shit, but she literally said, would she go down on you in a theater? And this is in 1995, and we're like, that's so hot. So he was like, do you know who she is? I said, yeah. He's going, her manager called and she would like to meet with you and stuff. And I was like, holy shit, all right, man. So we met and that was where she told me about the line, Isn't It Ironic and stuff. And so we became friends and we would chit chat on the phone or go out every once in a while. And very similar sensibility. I'm a big Canada-phile as well. So, you know, I could sit there and make fucking Ottawa jokes and she'd be like, oh my God, you know Ottawa jokes. And I'm like, oh yes, Nadine, I know many jokes. That's her middle name and shit. So it was never a relationship or anything like that. But, you know, we'd talk all the time. And we had one evening where we had a conversation on the phone where, you know, we were talking about how similar we were, and it wasn't flirty, but it was like, gee, I wonder why we're not in a relationship kind of thing. And so I said, well, let's list all the reasons that we probably couldn't be together. And the first thing she said was, you smoke. And I was like, really? That's a deal breaker? And she goes, well, and you're from New Jersey. And she goes, what about you? Like, what is it about me that, you know, how come we couldn't date? What do you think the problem would be? And I was like, well, you belong to the world. And she goes, oh, Kevin, that's so heavy. Why did you have to say that? I was like, you're massive right now. You're all over the place, man. Fucking, you're always doing concerts and shit. Like, the world has your fucking attention. So, you know, the conversation kept going and then ended and stuff. Months later, man, you know, the new album comes out, Spo's former Infatuation Junkie. And at this point, I'm now with Jennifer Schwalbach, my wife, who should become my wife. She's way pregnant and shit. The early months of her pregnancy, I should say, maybe 2 months. But this is weird. Like, suddenly I'm involved in this relationship with this woman I barely fucking know, and we're gonna have a kid together. Everything's moving so fucking fast. That album comes out. And, you know, I bought it on CD, popped it in my car, and we were driving together. And it's Front Row is the very first song on the album. So popped it in to give it a customary listen from top to bottom. And Jen, my girlfriend, who would be my wife one day, is sitting right next to me. Song kicks in. Doesn't happen right away, but it happens about maybe 25, 30 seconds into it. And, you know, she sings the lyrics and very clearly, you know, you hear the part about like, you know, I started saying things like, you smoke, you live in New Jersey. As soon as she said the you live in New Jersey part, Jennifer is sitting next to me goes, this is about you fucking asshole. Now, we're early in our relationship, so, you know, if it was now, I'd be like, oh, yeah, kind of, but nothing ever fucking happened and shit. She don't really know me that well and shit, so I'm like, well, fucking, all right, yeah, it is about me, man. Because I'm that catchable. I'm a guy that ladies want to be with. And then she was just like, no. And I was like, no, not at all. We had a conversation one night, and it was kind of about why we don't date and stuff like that. She says, that sounds flirting. A woman put your name in a song. I said, she didn't put my name in a song. She's like, but a conversation you had. I was like, she writes about a lot of shit, man. She's like, did you go down on her in a theater? I was like, no, but I wish. But I've been waiting for years for somebody to fucking put that connection together.
I've been waiting for years to ask you.
Is it really? That's so weird. So you listen to that song and you were like, I think this is about Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
You're the only person in the world, man.
I know.
Who I think would put that together. Most people would be like, she would never sing about that fat asshole. But it's cool. I have that little moment of immortality in her fucking song. It's very sweet. And I remember talking to her about it afterwards. I was like, I heard your album. She's like, did you? I was like, yeah, particularly the first song. And she was like, oh my God. She's like, that's right. In a way of like, oh, I forgot. And I'm like, you forgot? Like, you wrote a song about me. And she's like, oh, Kevin, you're just in that one verse. The rest doesn't apply to you at all, does it? And I was like, no, now that I think about it, you talk about having sex with this person. I'm relatively sure we didn't do that. So I got a little piece in the song, and I don't know. It feels really cool to me because I was a big fan to begin with, and then she put me in there, and suddenly I was an even bigger fan. And then she wound up doing the track for Dogma, and of course playing God herself in Dogma. But yeah, she references it's like being kissed by God, fall on the lips, and there's a Dogma callback. It's kind of neat, but it's so uncomfortable that you brought it up in front of all these people.
That's what this is about.
Yeah, I guess this is the room to do it in. All right, well done there, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
She wrote. All right, man, we're gonna wrap it up, and we're gonna wrap it up this way. We love to play games here on Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, man. One of our favorite games in the world is a game called Let Us Fuck. Now, generally speaking, okay, there it is. Come on up, man. Generally speaking, we go for volunteers, but boy, she was kind of right up and ready to go. She's already on fucking stage. Security! How are you? God, give her the microphone. Look how happy you are. You look like all the girls right before they fucked Muse. Okay, do you know what Let Us... Security. Now, have you ever played the game before? You seen the game played?
I've never seen it, but I've listened to the podcast.
Okay, so you know what it is. Basically, Let Us Fuck is a simulated sex game. What we do is we give them a position to reenact for us, a sexual position, and they try to figure out what that would be. And we don't go stuff like, fucking doggy style or something like that, or woman astride. No, we generally go for weirder things. So I would say, Mr. Muse, man, show us what the Ewok cock block would look like. And then he'll go like this. But generally he does it with another person, hence the volunteer. What name?
My name's Jessica.
Jessica, okay. Are you ready to have some simulated sex with Mr. Jason Mewes?
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere a mother's heart is breaking. Okay, man, let me see. There's a few different ones we could do. I wrote down the CUNT tower, but that's a little too precious. I had Timbits and a double-double, but that's a little too precious. But I think I'm gonna go for this one. It has just the right amount of dirty, and it's very relevant to here in Toronto, particularly being him and I had something to do with it. The sexual position you guys will reenact for us to end a Jay and Silent Bob Get Old from right here at Fan Expo Canada in Toronto is called Degrassi Up the Assy. Go figure that out, man. And come back and show us what that would look like. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, have you all had a good time this evening? You don't know, maybe you do, but you don't know what that's like. A room full of people with that much appreciation, it fuels you for months at a time, and I thank you. A lot of people out there would be like, how do you get this motherfucker to stop? I hate Kevin Smith. If there's no people doing shit like this, I would absolutely go away. But as long as there are people who are like, we're gathered and we want to hear what you have to say, fat boy, it'll always put a spring in my step, man. So I thank you for that in a big bad way. But while they figure that out, we got time for one more question, man. Go ahead, rock it. Put it in the microphone. You gotta say it in the microphone or it doesn't happen. Oh, they took it? Yell it out. Say it again.
Is it possible that Jason comes back, I could get a picture of you two with me?
You can make it happen. You know what? You come up real quick, like here, come up, sit with me, and while we're waiting for Muse. Holy shit. There was here, have a seat before you fall down. Oh, you're back? Well, hold on one second. We gotta take a picture with my man real quick. Stand here. You, over here. Muse.
I just need to take him. Sorry for that. By the way, you guys rock. You guys rock, by the way. Shh.
You're taking a picture of yourself.
Don't grab my balls. Good? Well done, man. Be careful going, thank you. Careful going off the stage. It looked really harsh when you hit your belly coming on. Help him down. No?
By the way, Jason, I'm disappointed they got rid of that. They got rid of,
Todd of the Book of Pure Evil!
Right on, thank you. We're losing control right at the end of the show. Okay, man, you guys, have you gone and figured out what this sexual position would look like?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we end this Jay and Silent Bob Get Old right here at Fan Expo Canada, we're going to now see, for once and for all, we'll know what the sexual position looks like. The sexual position is called Degrassi Up the Assy. Take it away, Jason Mewes.
Let us fuck.
Stop it. Hold on one second, man. I just have to clarify. Did you just take the darkest moment in Degrassi history and put sex into it? Did I just watch Jimmy get shot? Drake co-starred in this? Wow, that was fucking dark. Ladies and gentlemen, do you agree with that sexual position? I got a little hard.
Yes.
Okay, man, how was that?
It was awesome.
She gave it to you, big
She
time.
gave it to me, and I think it came across. I think even if we didn't give the name, if we just were like, we're gonna do a secret thing, people might catch it. Like they would catch on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, people might catch the very secret thing of, I'm gonna fuck a paraplegic.
Well, no, there's the lockers, the school, the basketball players.
Oh, dude, we followed the whole thing. We just weren't expecting the last bit of him getting shot and then, you know, getting fucked as well. But it was just like a Degrassi episode. It goes there.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you enjoy yourself this evening? I want to thank you for sitting around and listening to us bullshit. Please give it up for my gorgeous co-host, Mr. Jason Mewes. That is Jay and Silent Bob Get Old for this evening. I'm Kevin Smith.
Jason Mewes!
Go Get Old, Toronto! Good night!